Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, we would like to welcome the Rector of UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Amanuddin.
Before we start the panel sessions, we would like to read the rules that we hope all participants will adhere to. Number one, the participants will be muted for voice hearing during the presentation, but will be able to provide questions via the chat mechanism on the online meeting software. Number two, the participants will be able to create a discussion and ask questions during a discussion period, as mentioned in the schedule, by asking the question in the Zoom chat box. Number three, please show up on time. You may not disrupt the presentation by logging late, but you may miss important information. Number four, make sure your video background is proper without any distraction. We have provided a virtual background that you can access at Zoom chat box on the links. Using a virtual background is encouraged. Number five, ask questions concisely. Webinars are focused. Be sure your questions are too. Avoid wasting time in lengthy introduction and don't self-promote or spend a lot of time sharing your opinion before asking a question. Number six, please refrain from making conversation in the Zoom chat box that are not pertaining to discussion of the topic. A reminder to all participants to please fill out the attendance sheet that was shared in the Zoom chat box.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The Honorable Rector of UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Amanuddin. The Honorable Vice Rector of General Administration, Professor Dr. Ahmad Rodoni, MM. The Honorable Vice Rector of Student Affairs, UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Masri Mansur, MA. The Honorable Vice Rector of Cooperation of UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Andi M. Faisal Bakri, MA. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences, Dr. Apotheker Zilhadia M. Sai. Honorable Fellow Deans of respective faculty at UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, Honorable Fellow Vice Deans, Honorable Fellow Head of Department, Honorable Speakers, Honorable Committee, fellow lecturers, fellow presenters, and all of the participants. Greetings, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be. We cordially welcome you to the first virtual International Conference on Health Sciences, held by the Faculty of Health Sciences of UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta. My name is Nadia Dalai, an undergraduate student at the Faculty of Health Sciences, with my partner.
My name is Fauzan Ghazali Yusri, from an undergraduate student at the Faculty of Health Sciences also,
who will be your MCs for the next 2 days. First and foremost, let us give our praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his blessings, and for it is he who has given us the chance to be able to gather here for this special event. Let's not forget to pray our blessings or salawat to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has brought us out from the darkness into the light.
The next agenda is Tilawatil Quran, or the reading of a passage from the Al-Quran, which will be read by Aji Wahyu Sejati. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wan najmi idza hawa ma dhalla صاحبكم وما غوى ما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى علمه شديد القوى ذو مرة فاستوى وهو بالأفق الأعلى ثم دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى فأوحى إلى عبده ما أوحى ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى والنجم إذا هوى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى وما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى علمه شديد القوى علمه شديد القوى ذو مرة فاستوى وهو بالأفق الأعلى ثم دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى فأوحى إلى عبده ما أوحى ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر إلى الذين خرجوا من ديارهم وهم ألوف حذر الموت فقال لهم الله موتوا ثم أحياهم إن الله لذو فضل على الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون صدق الله العظيم. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
for the beautiful recitation, Aji.
Now is the singing of Indonesia's national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and the singing of Hymne UIN and Mari Kita.
Indonesia
would now like to invite Ms. Irma Nurbaiti, PhD, to give her report on the behalf of the conference committee. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Director Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, the Vice Rector Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, the Dean Faculty of Health Science Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, the Head Research and Service Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, all speakers and all audience. All praises and thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing and mercy. We are able to get together in this virtual conference to attend and follow the opening ceremony of International Conference on Health Science organized by Faculty of Health Science, Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. This conference will be today's conference until tomorrow. First of all, on behalf of the organizing committee, it is a great privilege and honor for us to organize International Conference on Health Science with theme Education, Research, and Health Practice in the New Normal, Challenges and Opportunity. The aims of the conference are, first, to provide an opportunity for academic, clinician, students, and policymakers to examine and exchange knowledge and experience. Second, to gain understanding of education, research, and health practice in the new normal. And third, the last, understanding of strategy and policy in health service in the new normal. Speakers in this conference are the experts in the exclusion areas of pharmacy, nursing, and public health from various countries including Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Japan, and United Kingdom. Participants in this conference come from Indonesia and other countries. This conference is impossible without strong support from participants, organizing committees, sponsor UIN Jakarta, and all collaboration parties. In this opportunity, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the Rector of UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, the Dean of the Faculty of Health Science, UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, all distinguished speakers, invited speakers, guests, and participants for fruitful support and contribution to the success of the conference. Finally, as a chairperson of this conference, I also would like to thank all of the organizing committee members that have been working hard in preparing and organizing this conference. As human beings, we realize our limitation and handicap in organizing the conference. Therefore, please receive our apologies for any inconvenience during preparation and implementation of the conference. Wishing you all a very wonderful and rewarding conference. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for your report, Ms. Irma Nurbaiti, PhD.
Next, we would like to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta, Dr. Apoteker Zilhadia MSci, to give her speech. The floor is yours. Apoteker Zilhadia MSci. Dr. Apoteker Zilhadia MSci, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable our Rector, Professor Dr. Amani Lubis, Vice Rector, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. All the praises and thanks be to Allah and salutation upon Prophet Muhammad. Faculty of Health Sciences can finally hold international conference on health science entitled Education, Research, and Health Practices in the New Normal, Challenges and Opportunity. The Faculty of Health Sciences was established in 2018. It is an expansion of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. As a new faculty, this is the first time it holds an international conference. At the beginning of this year, the faculty planned to perform it offline. Unfortunately, the coronavirus pandemic has hit the world and has caused the faculty to conduct the conference online. This international conference is intended to increase the number of international publications among the academic communities, share ideas about health topics, and explore collaboration opportunities. Hopefully, the speakers, participants, other audience will enjoy the conference and benefit from it, especially to develop the quality of education, research, and health practices in the new era. I, on behalf of the Faculty of Health Sciences, would like to show our gratitude to our rector, vice rector, all speakers, participants, audience, committee, and in particular, I would like to our deepest thanks to the event chairman, reviewers, keynote speaker, head of the department in Faculty of Health Science, and all parties that I cannot mention for their extended support on the conference. At last, I would also like to apologize for all mistakes and errors in any way, and thank you for your participation and attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your speech, Dr. Apotheker Jahabia Ansar. Last on our opening agenda, we would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Furqan, Head of Academic Subdivision, to recite the prayer. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us pray together. May Allah bless our international conference program. Ila hadratin Nabil Mustafa Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa ala alihi washabbil kiram. Al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Astaghfirullahal azim. Astaghfirullahal azim. Astaghfirullahal azim. Falakal hamdu ya ma'bud. Hamdan syakirin. Hamdan na'imin. حمدا يوافي نعمه ويدافع ويكافئ مزيده يا ربنا لك الحمد ولك الشكر كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم وعظيم سلطانك اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأحوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانصر علينا رحمتك وذكرنا ما نسينا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين صل سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Mr. Mokufa.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the next agenda, we would like to ask all of the participants to please open your webcams so that we can take a picture together. I will be giving the cues. On the count of 3, I would like everyone to smile. 1, 2, 3. Since there are several participants, we would like to do a couple of pages of the screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Once more, 1, 2, 3. Participants, we would like to ask you to just keep on smiling as we will never know when your face will be screenshotted. So please keep on smiling. 1, 2, 3. Just a little longer, participants. Keep on smiling. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating in our photo session. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to invite Professor Dr. Amani Lubis, the Rector of UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, to open our plenary sessions with the keynote speech. But before we pass the floor over to our Rector, I would first like to give a short introduction. Professor Amani Lubis received her undergraduate degree from the English department at Al-Azhar University, Cairo, and obtained her master's and doctorate degrees from UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. She currently holds the position of Rector of UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, and her major fields of interest are Islamic history and civilization, Middle Eastern studies, and Islamic political thought. Without further ado, to Professor Dr. Amani Lubis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Honorable Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences, Ibu Dr. Zilhadia, Honorable all Vice Deans of the faculty, and also distinguished speakers of this international conference on health sciences held by Faculty of Health Sciences, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University. I'd also greet the vice rectors. I think they attended, one of them attended this opening ceremony also of the conference, and all of the academic staff at the Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University. First of all, I would like to greet you all in this in attending this international conference on health sciences, and the main theme of the conference is about education, research, health and health practices in the new normal, challenges and opportunities. It will be held for 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, from 26th until 27th October 2020. Alhamdulillah, I would like to praise Allah for the opportunity and for the blessings that has enabled the Faculty of Health Sciences, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, to hold this international conference on health sciences. May salawat and salam always be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has guided us with his sunnah, especially on the significance of learning, research, and also obtaining useful information about health sciences and practices. As Director of Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, I would like to welcome and thank all the speakers, committee members, lecturers, students, and all participants who take part in this event. I would like to thank the Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences, who has organized this international conference to improve the quality of research and education and promote Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University as a reputable university. Entering year 2020, the world has shocked by the global phenomenon, the coronavirus pandemic. This pandemic is not likely to go away anytime sooner, and the World Health Organization even claims that the virus will continue to circulate around the world and live among us. In turn, the new normal has now become a new lifestyle, adapted by almost all countries, and a reference particularly concerning the social and behavioral changes. During this era, all components of society need to change their life patterns and habits. The social sectors experiencing major changes include education, research, and health practices. The education, especially higher education, must adapt to the new normal era and transform all aspects of teaching and learning in order to keep up, survive, and continue to produce future generations that can compete globally. The teaching learning process, which was initially carried out conventionally, a face-to-face learning in the classroom, can now be integrated with learning, with e-learning, electronic learning by virtual platforms methods. Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, in this case, has issued various policies about the adaptation measures to new habits, especially in terms of education. This adaptation Measures are taken mainly to focus on the health and safety of students, lecturers, educational staff, and the academic community. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and speakers, besides the health and safety, the university has also made the policy regarding the implementation of higher education in the new normal, including the implementation of teaching learning process and the use of campus facilities and services. The implementation of the teaching learning process in terms of theory and practice is designed and set online. If, for example, the learning practice is unlikely to carry out online, it's recommended that it be conducted at the end of the semester, maybe at the in December 2020, inshallah. However, if the learning practice or any priority activities, student final assignments, thesis, and dissertation in particular cannot be conducted at the end of the semester, the academic community is allowed to do them on campus by following the health protocol. Concerning the policy on research, the university encourages all academic community to conduct research on health protocol. In the new normal era, the academic community in the Faculty of Health Sciences, for instance, can conduct research on developing and emerging topics about COVID-19, including synthetic and natural medicines, proper COVID patient care, social behavior in responding to COVID-19, and the discovery of vaccination, rapid and low-cost COVID detection, and so on. This is a challenge and an opportunity at the same time, as all eyes now focus on dealing with the COVID-19. In terms of health practices, there should be significant change in social behavior. The public must be aware of the lifestyle change and obey the health protocols required by the government. In addition, they must also be able to adapt to their routines by limiting physical contact, avoiding crowds, frequently washing hands, and paying attention to healthy food and lifestyles. There must be some preparation to transform or change social behavior, which has never been done before. This is where higher education institutions, especially the Faculty of Health Sciences, exist. We expect the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences to become the leading institution in preparing for the social behavior change referring to the health protocol. That's the last thing I would like to say. Hopefully this conference runs smoothly and Allah will always protect us from the COVID-19 diseases and other diseases so that we can keep playing our respective roles for the benefit of humanity. I hope you will have the very good deliberation and insights as a fruitful conference, inshallah. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for your speech, Professor Dr. Amani Lubis. May this event run smoothly from beginning until end. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, we would first like to ask all the participants here to watch a brief profile about the Faculty of Health Sciences so that you may get to know our beloved faculty better. Please enjoy watching the brief profile.
Negeri, UIN, memberikan transformasi kelembagaan Institut Agama Islam Negeri (IAIN) menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri (UIN), memberikan kontribusi nyata bagi perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan masyarakat. Kehadiran UIN Jakarta dapat menjadi oase ilmiah integratif di tengah-tengah perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi global. Oleh karena itu, dalam upaya memenuhi kebutuhan terhadap pendidikan tinggi yang sesuai dengan tuntutan masyarakat, Universitas Islam Negeri UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta membuka jurusan dan program studi baru untuk mendukung adanya disintegrasi untuk menghasilkan lulusan yang memiliki kapasitas dan kapabilitas yang berislami dan dibekali oleh pendidikan yang terintegrasi antara ilmu sains dan agama. Pada tanggal 30 Desember 2002, melalui sidang Senat, UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta merekomendasikan pendirian Fakultas Kedokteran dan Ilmu Kesehatan atau FKIK. Pendirian FKIK bertujuan untuk menjawab tantangan dalam mewujudkan konsep Indonesia Sehat 2010 yang membutuhkan lebih banyak tenaga dokter, apoteker, perawat, dan tenaga kesehatan masyarakat. FKIK dirintis melalui tahapan rencana persiapan dan pengesahan oleh Kemendikbud. Para perintis yang ikut dalam rencana pembukaan Fakultas Kedokteran dan Ilmu Kesehatan UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta adalah Profesor Dr. Sularto SPBO almarhum, Profesor Dr. H. Dr. MK Tajudin SPAND, Dr. Arli Sularto SPPD, Profesor Dr. Azumardi Azra MA, dan lain-lain. Dan tim penyusun proposal pendirian yang diketuai oleh Profesor Dr. H. Dr. MK Tajudin SPAND dari Fakultas Kedokteran Universitas Indonesia, yang juga sekaligus berperan sebagai fakultas pembina. Profesor Dr. H. Dr. MK Tajudin SPAND merupakan dekan pertama Fakultas Kedokteran dan Ilmu Kesehatan. Fakultas Kedokteran dan Ilmu Kesehatan UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta saat ini memiliki 5 program studi, di antaranya Prodi Kedokteran dan Profesi Dokter yang mempunyai visi menjadikan PSKPD FKIK UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta sebagai lembaga pendidikan tinggi kedokteran dan profesi dokter yang berdaya saing tinggi, terkemuka dan terdepan dalam mengembangkan dan mengintegrasikan aspek keislaman, keilmuan, kedokteran, kemanusiaan, dan keindonesiaan. Prospek kerja di Prodi Kedokteran antara lain dokter, dosen, kepala puskesmas, peneliti dalam bidang kedokteran dan kesehatan. Prodi Farmasi memiliki visi menjadi pendidikan tinggi farmasi yang terkemuka dalam mengembangkan dan mengintegrasikan ilmu kefarmasian dengan aspek keislaman, kemodernan, dan keindonesiaan yang mampu bersaing di tingkat nasional. nursing trainer, perawat profesional, peneliti dalam bidang kesehatan dan keperawatan, education support di perusahaan, entrepreneur di bidang keperawatan dan kesehatan. Prodi Kesehatan Masyarakat yang memiliki visi menjadi program studi kesehatan masyarakat yang berdaya saing tinggi, terkemuka dan terdepan dalam mengembangkan keilmuan kesehatan masyarakat dan mengintegrasikannya dengan aspek keislaman, kemanusiaan, dan keindonesiaan pada tahun 2020. Prospek kerja di Prodi Ilmu Kesehatan Masyarakat antara lain Manajer Pelayanan Kesehatan Tingkat Pertama, Peneliti Kesehatan, Pendidik Kesehatan, berkarir sesuai peminatan, epidemiolog, statistikawan, tenaga K3, tenaga Kesling, nutrisionis, tenaga Promkes, Prodi Pendidikan Apoteker. Pendidikan profesi apoteker adalah pendidikan farmasi yang diselenggarakan untuk menghasilkan apoteker yang memiliki kompetensi untuk melaksanakan praktik kefarmasian. Visi pendidikan apoteker menjadi penyelenggara program studi apoteker yang terkemuka secara nasional dan internasional yang menghasilkan apoteker muslim yang profesional dalam menjalankan praktek kefarmasian. Secara umum, lulusan pendidikan apoteker diharapkan mampu menghasilkan apoteker muslim yang kompeten dalam menjalankan pekerjaan kefarmasian. Hal ini tidak terlepas dari misi UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta dan disesuaikan dengan kompetensi lulusan yang sudah digariskan oleh IAI, Ikatan Apoteker Indonesia, dan APTFI karena merupakan suatu program profesi. Untuk menunjang tridharma perguruan tinggi, terutama aspek pengabdian pada masyarakat, Fakultas Kedokteran dan Ilmu Kesehatan juga membangun klinik sebagai pusat pelayanan kesehatan di masyarakat dengan fasilitas dan pengobatan bersubsidi, sehingga biaya pengobatan relatif murah. Saat ini Fakultas Kedokteran dan Ilmu Kesehatan mempunyai 2 klinik yang aktif melayani kesehatan masyarakat, yaitu Klinik Pelayanan Kesehatan Masyarakat Reni Jaya dan Klinik Pelayanan Kesehatan Masyarakat Buaran. Di sisi lain, penyelenggaraan uji kompetensi tingkat nasional seperti UKNI, UKM PPD, dan UKAI menjadi kegiatan lainnya di masing-masing prodi. Selain itu, FKIK juga menjadi salah satu penyelenggara pelaksanaan penerimaan mahasiswa baru nasional seperti UM Mandiri, PMDK, UMB, dan lain-lain. Sementara itu, untuk mendukung penyelenggaraan kegiatan perkuliahan dan praktikum, mahasiswa FKIK UIN Syarif Hidayatullah melakukan kerjasama dengan rumah sakit, di antaranya adalah RS Fatmawati sebagai rumah sakit pendidikan utama, Sistem KBM yang baik dengan disertai tenaga pengajar yang kompeten telah mengantarkan FKIK UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta meraih beberapa prestasi-prestasi. Ilmu pengetahuan tidak selalu dihasilkan di dalam kelas. Kreativitas dan kemampuan otak bisa dihasilkan dengan kegiatan lainnya. Kegiatan ekstrakurikuler di FKIK UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta menjadi salah satu wadah mengeksplorasi menunjukkan hal tersebut.
Fakultas Kedokteran Ilmu Kesehatan memiliki visi menyiapkan lulusan yang dapat memiliki kemampuan keterampilan yang profesional Islami.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a brief profile about the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences that has now become 2 different faculties, which are the Faculty of Medicine and the Faculty of Health Sciences. Next, I would like to pass it over to Fauzan.
Thank you, Nadia. Since we've been sitting for a while, let's do some reflexes for our body to keep our spirit going on. Invite all participants to do some senam, firman.
Sorry. Kita dulu. Oh, di unmute.
Mohon perhatian. Mari kita beristirahat sejenak dari semua aktivitas kita untuk mengikuti senam peregangan germas di tempat kerja Anda masing-masing.
Well, how do you feel?
I feel very refreshed after that stretching, as you know, because exercising is going to get rid of the sedentary action, right? So that is going to be what helps you get better and prevent, for example, like other chronic diseases from settling in.
Yeah, I feel so refreshed too because I had an issue low back pain, for sitting too long. So I do some exercise to refresh my body.
Yeah, so that's also a problem that I see, like when we're watching webinars or conferences such as this one. You sit for too long and then you start feeling pain in your back. So hopefully with the stretching, everyone also feels refreshed and is ready to move on to the next agenda.
Right. All right. Respected participants, we would now like to introduce the moderators for our first plenary session, Ms. Narila Mutia Nasir, PhD, the lecturer from the Department of Public Health, Universitas UIN Hidayatullah, Jakarta. First of all, I will read a brief introduction about her. Her full name is Narila Mutia Nasir, PhD. She now works as a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Health Sciences at UIN Hidayatullah, Jakarta. She received her doctorate degree from Graduate School of Human Sciences in Osaka University, Japan in 2013. Her most recent publication is about misinformation related to COVID-19 Indonesia. Without further ado, we invite Ms. Narila Mutia Nasir, PhD, to take over the plenary session. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Nadia and Fauzan. Can you listen to my voice? It's clear?
Yes,
Yes.
you're audible, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, all praises and thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing. Today we are here in the virtual room to get together in this conference. And also salawat and salam always be upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who lead us to be a better person. The Honorable Director of University Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Amani Lubis, all Vice Rector, the Dean of Faculty of the Health Sciences, UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, guest speakers, and all participants. Thank you for joining in our conference today. Again, I warmly welcome you in the International Conference on Health Science held by Faculty of Health Science UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta with theme Education, Research, and Health Practice in the New Normal. I would like to express my gratitude to our Rector, Professor Dr. Amani Lubis, for her keynote speech and obviously open our conference today. Thank you, Prof. And now it's time for our plenary session. My name is Narila Mutia Nasir. I will be your moderator for this morning session. COVID-19 bring us to the condition that we never imagined. Today, last year, we never think that we are limited to meet each other. we are never think that we are worried to be impacted by this disease. And also, we are never imagine that now we are seeing all health professionals struggling to help people to be recovered or stay healthy. So in this plenary session, we have read 3 speakers that will give a perspective about COVID-19 pandemic. So how we handle this situation, how the challenge and opportunity from the perspective of pharmacy, public health, and also nursing. We have 3 speakers. First is Professor Dr. Aisyah Adam from University Technology Mara, Malaysia. I think I saw Professor Aisyah here. And then the second one, we will have Febi Dwi Rahmadi, PhD from Griffith University, Australia. And also the third one, we will have Fana Simoda, PhD from St. Luke International University, Japan. For the first speakers, of course, I want to introduce Professor Aisyah first to all the audience. Please show the CV of Professor Aisyah. Okay, Professor Aisyah, Professor Dr. Aisyah, she has PhD in biochemical toxicology from London University, and now she is a professor in pharmacy. So she already has so many research grants, and she also supervised for PhD and also master graduate. And she also have a journal, many journal, and reviewer for some journal. So her research interest is about, and her research interest is about oxidative stress and antioxidant efficacy and safety studies. Today, Professor Aisyah will give and share our perspective about how the potency of natural medicine in coping COVID-19. So, Professor Aisyah is already here. Assalamualaikum, Professor Aisyah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum, ya Professor Aisyah. Thank you for coming to and join in this conference and will be our valuable speakers. So I think, yeah, I think it will be interesting to listen to your presentation about how we handle, because we really challenging how to be recovered from this disease, right? So I hope your presentation will give our broader knowledge about this kind of issue. Please, Professor Aisyah.
Thank you, Dr. Narila. Let me start my share screen. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get, I want to share the PowerPoint.
It's okay.
Let me see, where is my PowerPoint? Oh my God. Well, I did this earlier, but can I? Okay, it's opening now. Is that okay? Can you see that?
Maybe still process.
I need help here to get my PowerPoint on. How do I get my PowerPoint on?
You already put the share screen?
Yeah, but is the PowerPoint on?
Not yet.
Not yet. I will need help from
Or
my son.
maybe maybe the committee can help to send the PowerPoint of Professor Aisha.
The PowerPoint is on my, because I changed it, it's on my desktop. How do I take it into here?
Oh.
I'm sorry. Just 1 second. Can I call somebody? 1 second, give me. I'll get help from somebody.
Prof. Aisha, I think you can try again because we already make you co-host now. You already co-host now. So I think you can.
I can try.
Yeah,
okay, you can try again.
I cannot get it.
Prof. Aisha, would you like us to help you?
Yeah, because I cannot bring my PowerPoint from the desktop onto this Zoom platform.
Okay.
Could you send your update PPT to us?
Now?
Yes.
Otherwise I will use the old one that you have already. I can use the old one.
Oh, okay. We will help you.
Yeah.
Just a moment.
Just start the one that you already have. Is that okay?
Okay.
Sorry about this. I didn't expect this to happen.
It's okay because this is a virtual, so it's always be something like unexpected happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Nabila. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Greetings kepada Honorable Rector Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, also to the Vice Rector, and of course to the Dean and faculty members from Fakultas Ilmu Kesihatan Universitas Islam Indonesia. Thank you very much for inviting me. Next, please. Next, please. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very honored to be considered and having to give the first talk as well. That's always a great honor. Anyway, a few terms. Of course, we were all caught by surprise with the advent of COVID-19. Because when it happened in China, when reports started coming from China, we thought, okay, it's quite localized, only China. But very quickly it spread to the world. And of course, now all of us are working from home, and you see that I'm in my room at home. A few terms. This is the virus. This is the virus, and it is known as SARS-CoV virus 2. The disease is known as COVID-19. We all know that this infection causes hyperinflammation, culminating in lung fibrosis. Next, please. Next, please. The origin of the virus was supposedly from the bat, and very quickly, the virus was spread to people. The incubation period is about 2 to 14 days, and symptoms were fever in about 83% of cases, cough in about 82%, shortness of breath. Other symptoms include muscle aches, confusion, headache, sore throat, rhinorrhea, chest pain, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting. And about 60% of patients reported loss of taste and smell. Now, more than 90% of people showed more than one symptom, and only about 15% has these symptoms. The virus is spread by droplets when the infected person coughs, sneezes, or breathes. And there is also recent reports of fecal oral transmission. We all know that currently there is no specific treatment for COVID-19 other than to maintain personal hygiene and preventing exposure to body fluids. Next, please. Next, please. Now, a word of caution, because I've been trained in pharmacy. We all, other than conventional medicine, we look to what is in our diet, what sort of herbs, what sort of supplements can help with COVID-19. There is always a debate on whether vitamins and herbs can boost the immune system, especially against coronaviruses. And as healthcare providers, we play an important role in telling people that actually no herbs alone can cure COVID-19. And of course, another caution is that if people started using herbal supplements indiscriminately, this method or this practice can be unsafe, as certain vitamins and herbs may interfere with prescription medications. Next, please. Many sites have published this caution. Next, please. And FDA, next, please. Next, please. And FDA has issued warning letters against usage of herbs against COVID-19. Next, please. Next, please. COVID-19 is actually a hyperinflammatory reaction. Can you go back? This is the major cause of disease severity and death. In people with severe diseases, you see high levels of inflammatory markers, C-reactive protein, ferritin, and D-dimer, high neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio, and increased levels of inflammatory cytokines and chemokines. The pathogenic inflammation, also known as cytokine storm, is similar to those shown by other severe coronaviruses, including SARS-CoV and Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus. Also similar to the cytokine release syndrome observed in people with cancer who were treated with chimeric antigen receptor modified T cells. Next, please. Next, please. If we search the internet using the search terms immunomodulatory effect of herbs and foods and herbs, we get many, many results, either on Science Direct or on Google. You get millions of results. Next, please. Next, please. The SARS-CoV-2 virus, the agent, the viral agent responsible for COVID-19, actually binds to ACE2 receptors, which are present on alveolar type 2 cells of the lungs. Once the virus has bound to the receptors, it gets engulfed, it invades, and undergoes replication, assembly, release, and infection. Not everybody will be infected. People who are susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 infection developing COVID-19 are those with repressed immune function. For example, older people, more than 65, people with ongoing medical conditions such as diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular conditions, or cancer, show inflammatory response and the cytokine storm and all other disorders related to COVID-19. Next, please. Next, please. There are two phases of the immune response to SARS-CoV-2 viral infection. The early phase is inadequate. This inadequate early innate immune response actually compromise viral control. The virus binds to ACE2 receptors on type 2 alveolar cells. This causes the early pulmonary pathology. Later on, the inflammatory response becomes overactivated, known as the cytokine storm. Now, the renin-angiotensin system, which is part of the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, is activated. Now, we know that in normal pathophysiology, a reduction in blood pressure causes renin to be converted to angiotensinogen, and this gets converted to angiotensin 1, which is converted to angiotensin 2 by angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE. Angiotensin 2 is pro-inflammatory through macrophage recruitment, and angiotensin 2 normally is converted to angiotensin 127 via the ACE receptor. And angiotensins 1 to 7 are anti-inflammatory. But when the COVID virus binds to ACE receptor, it's taken up into cells and becomes causing the receptor to be not available. When the ACE receptor is unavailable, angiotensin 2, which is pro-inflammatory, cannot be converted to anti-inflammatory, angiotensins 1 to 7. Therefore, what you get is hyperinflammation. Next, please. Next, please. Now, this was documented in hospitalized patients, more than 1,000 in New York. These people were followed up for 41 days, and their serum cytokine levels, interleukin 6, interleukin 8, human necrosis factor alpha, and interleukin 1 beta were measured. And it was found that high levels of the cytokines at the time of hospitalization are strong and independent predictors of whether the patient survive or pass away. Next, please. Next, please. The present treatment for COVID-19 patients requires the use of oxygen therapy, either invasive or non-invasive. The use of antibiotics in combination, usage of antivirals, amongst which are Calitra, which is propinavir, ritonavir, also chloroquinone and interferon, the use of corticosteroids, antibody therapy using convalescent plasma, and nitrous oxide therapy. Next, please. Next, please. But antivirals are used only in late-stage patients, and usage of chloroquine or hydrochloroquine is associated with arrhythmia. Next, please. Next, please. In China, TCM is used. Amongst the TCM, the traditional Chinese medicine herbs that were used include Mazing Shigan decoction, King Fei Paidu decoction, Shigan Manhuan decoction, Lian Hua King Wen capsules. Next, please. Next, please. Now, it was found that the patients in Wuhan who were primarily treated with conventional medicine, the patients in Wuhan were primarily treated with conventional medicine as frontline treatment, except in TCM hospitals where they were given TCM herbs. And the patients who received TCM treatment directly showed more than 90% efficacy. Only a few, about 5%, were admitted to ICU. While the use of conventional treatment, including antibiotics and painkillers, resulted in 10 times more people ending up in ICU. Because of the effectiveness of TCM treatment, integrated treatment has become standard practice to fight COVID-19 in Wuhan and many other hospitals in China. But however, the scientific data to support this claim is still very sparse. Next, please. Next, please. Next. Next. So, a systematic survey of the various TCM herbal preparations that were used in Wuhan was conducted, and the aim was to review efficacy, to find the most popular herbs that were used, and to look into future opportunities for research in isolating and identifying the chemicals responsible for effectiveness in treatment of COVID-19. Now, actually, when the TCM doctors uses TCM, it was not to kill the viral infection. It was not to kill the virus. TCM was used based on TCM theory of restoring the balance of the human immune system. Next, please. Now, in 2002, 2003, there was also a pandemic involving SARS-CoV-1 infection. At that time, mortality in mainland China was the lowest compared to other countries. And it was suggested that this was because in China, herbal formulations from traditional Chinese medicine were used in the treatment protocols. So infection was controlled and number of deaths were reduced. The herbal formulas that were utilized contain herbs which have broad spectrum antiviral, anti-inflammatory, immunomodulatory, and anti-toxicity effects. And when diagnosis was done, the TCM doctors looked at the patient's comorbidities, age, constitution, and other relevant factors. Next, please. The integrative approach, which is usage of herbs together with conventional medicines, was found to be more effective than use of conventional drugs alone. The herbs lowered the average daily dose of drugs. In this case, it was methylprednisolone and hydrocortisone in severe cases, and also reduced side effects of some medications. But the herbs that are used together with conventional drugs do not reduce the death rates, even though the duration and intensity of symptoms were lowered in these patients. Next, please. Now, in people with COVID-19, 3 of the 4 patients who were given a combination of this antiviral drug, Kaletra, and Chinese medicine that contains arbidol showed improvement. Although, as we saw before, patient survival was not affected, was not improved. There were limitations to the studies that are reported, i.e., number of participants is small. There is poor quality of some of the studies, as mentioned by systematic reviews, and there is a low number of controlled clinical trials and a lack of investigations on drug-herb interactions. Next, please. Other systems of herbal drugs have also been reported. This includes the herbs used in Indian, Iranian, and Korean traditional medicines to fight COVID-19. Next, please. Now, because herbs, especially in our region, we use herbs a lot as part of our food. Therefore, it does make sense for herbs and food to be used as complementary therapy to prevent infection and to strengthen our immunity. Next, please. Now, this next series of slides I will skip, and I have skipped because they just list down the herbs that have been tested and shown to be effective in vitro systems and some in vivo systems against viruses that causes flu. Next, please. Skip this. Skip as well. Skip here. And the last one shows, can we go to the last one? Previous slide, please. This is a combination herb. This is a multi-herbal formulation that was used in COVID-19. It contains many herbs. And in vitro, this herbal formulation inactivated the virus SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19, inhibits inactivated viral replication, reduce the pro-inflammatory cytokines, and also affect particle morphology of the virus cell. So there is some basis for effectiveness of this herbal formulation against COVID-19. Next, please. Now, if you look at the compounds from herbs, these phytochemicals are potential therapeutic targets, especially the ones that have antiviral activity and which can cause inhibition or blockade of the COVID virus host protein pathways. And if you look at the homology between SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2, it is about 80%. The receptor binding domain structure is also similar, except for some amino acid variation at some key residues. So this offers mechanistic basis, which support an integrative approach to fight coronavirus infections, i.e. using herbs together with conventional treatment. Next, please. This study looked at this Chinese herb, Rhizoma polygoti. So network pharmacology was used to look at the drug targets for the active constituents of this herb. They were using prediction databases to look at the potential targets of the main chemical components, and the other databases, GeneClip2, NCBI, GeneCut databases, to look for COVID-19 related targets. So this kind of studies actually identify potential compounds that can act on multiple target signaling to treat COVID-19. And this is where I think we should take our research with our herbs. Next, please. Next, please. This is a clinical study using one of the Chinese herb. Here, the clinical efficacy of this Chinese herb, XBD, combined with conventional treatment, was compared to conventional treatment alone in patients with COVID-19. Now, the number of patients was not that big. So the treatment group has 22 people. The control group has 20 people. Now, both groups were treated for 1 week. And the primary endpoint was disappearance of rate of main symptoms, i.e. fever, cough, fatigue, and loss of appetite. This study shows that clinical symptoms in the experimental group, in the treated group, in the group treated with the herb and conventional medicine, were significantly reduced. The number of white blood cells and lymphocytes in the experimental group was increased and returned to normal. This shows that the integrative therapy with herbs and conventional treatment improved immunity. C-reactive protein and erythrocyte sedimentation rate in the experimental group was significantly reduced, showing anti-inflammatory effect of the herbs together with conventional treatment. Next, please. Next. Echinacea is a well-known immunostimulant. It does so by increasing percentages of CD49 plus, CD19 plus lymphocytes in the spleen and causes NK cell cytotoxicity. It also increases production of interferon gamma. It is actually an immunomodulator, i.e. it restores normal immune functions. Now, echinacea extract has been shown to reduce production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, i.e. interleukin-1, interleukin-6, interleukin-8, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. And double-blind clinical studies showed that echinacea was effective in treating colds and flu, i.e. the duration of the cold is shorter and there are fewer episodes. Next, please. In this study, echinacea extract was given to healthy people, N equals to 10. The amount of echinacea was 4.7 milligrams, and cytokines were measured before and after treatment. And what was measured was mRNA levels and also protein levels of these cytokines. So what the researchers found was there was upregulation of mRNA levels of interleukin-2 and interleukin-8. These are the protective cytokines, and downregulation of mRNA levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and interleukin-6. Next, please. Now, if you give a herb, whatever we take orally must become bioavailable, i.e. the active component of that oral preparation must be able to enter the bloodstream and act on receptors to elicit effects. So bioavailability of echinacea was tested by giving volunteers an extract in a single dose. And the active compound, tetraene, the major compound, was measured with time. Also, its effectiveness was measured by measuring these interleukins before and at 24 hours after administration of the herb. So what was found here was the echinacea extract was bioavailable. In fact, the levels are quite high in blood. And the echinacea extract causes immunomodulatory effects. It causes downregulation of gene expression and reduction of plasma protein levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and also upregulation of expression of anti-inflammatory molecules. Next, please. Now, another study combined echinacea with ginger, Zingiber officinale. And you have a lot of ginger species in Indonesia. A lot of them are used in jamu. So here, echinacea and ginger in these doses, echinacea 5 milligram, ginger 25 milligrams were given orally, and the active ingredients were measured in blood using LCMS and the cytokine levels measured. So what was found was the active components were bioavailable, rapidly absorbed, and the data here showed that pro-inflammatory cytokines went down, and also there are anti-inflammatory effects, and the effects were similar to those elicited by hydrocortisone, which is the positive control that was used in this study. Next, please. Now, when we prepare jamu, Indonesia prepares a lot of jamu, and the Malaysians are also learning from this. During my mother's time, she used a lot of jamu, but during my time, we sort of lost that knowledge because all of us left the country quite early to study outside the country. Anyway, we want to know whether the jamu or home decoctions that we made are stable. So in this study, extracts of echinacea were prepared from different species. So they prepared an ethanolic extract, a tincture, a cold water infusion, and a hot water infusion, and kept this at 4 degrees in the fridge over a 4-day period. And the efficacy was measured by measuring the cytokines at day 1 and day 4 post-extraction. So what the researchers found was keeping the extract in the fridge causes production of endotoxin. And the extracts were effective, but the extract is not stable over the 4-day period, especially the water extract. So the activity of the water extract goes down at the 4th day. So the lesson learned here is that when we prepare jamu, we cannot keep it in the fridge for a long time. It is best to take it fresh or within a few days of preparation. Next, please. In naturopathic medicine, there is always emphasis on determinants of health, to maintain and restore vitality, and also for good health and healing. The medicatrix naturae refers to the inherent self-organizing and healing process of living systems, which establishes, maintains, and restores health. And naturopathic medicine recognizes this healing process to be intelligent. So we should actually be maintaining our health using diet, by exercising, by managing stress, then only resorting to physical medicine, later on to herbs and homeopathy, later on to pharmaceuticals, and lastly only to surgery. Next, please. Now, Mark Heeman said that what you find at the end of your fork is more powerful than anything you'll find at the bottom of a pill. That makes sense if we take a lot of herbs and a lot of vegetables in our food because of the abundance of phytochemicals present in these. And we know that these phytochemicals are secondary metabolites developed by the plants to protect themselves against disease and so on. Next, please. Next, please. So it is also sensible to use food as functional food to increase our immune function, because the innate immune reaction is our first defense. This not only determines the viral infection rate, but also immune-mediated response. And the innate immune response can be enhanced using functional food and nutritional agents, so that when there is a viral attack, we will not succumb so easily. Next, please. Now, in this cartoon, you see the virus entering the cell. So there are many targets whereby phytochemicals, the chemicals present in plants, can act. When the virus is docking, when the virus is replicating, it can boost the innate immune defense. When the virus attacks cells, there is production of oxidative stress, i.e. oxygen-free radicals and other free radicals are produced in excess of the antioxidant balance of the body, causing damage to cells. There is inflammation and there is hemostasis of the immune system. Many chemicals can actually inhibit the viral docking and entry, also viral replication, increase the innate immune defense, decrease the oxidative stress, decrease the inflammatory reaction, and increase hemostasis of the immune system. Next, please. Now, a lot of research has been done to look at what sort of chemicals in plants, what sort of phytochemicals are present, and what are the mechanisms whereby they can work to inhibit the SARS-CoV-2 virus or to reduce the effects of COVID-19. So we know that in plants, there are many polyphenols, including flavonoids. And the flavonoids, again, can be divided into many, many chemicals. And a lot of research has been done to see what they can do. And also terpenoids. And the mechanisms of effect are shown in this slide here. Next, please. Next, please. I will only be talking about a few of our herbs. Now, I think everybody knows these. Hempedupumi, king of bitter, pahit, yeah. This is an immunostimulant, an antiviral agent, antioxidant, has anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory activities, and is commonly used to treat inflammatory diseases. And controlled clinical studies have shown that Andrographis paniculata is able to reduce severity of symptoms in people suffering from the common cold and to shorten the sick leave, but it is very, very bitter. Next, please. This is what we have in our kitchen. And now it has many effects on the immune function, all ascribed to the organosulfur compounds. The main compound is allicin, which upon crushing or chewing or grinding is converted to allicin, also ajoin. There are lectins, agglutinins, and water-soluble fructans. All these have antiviral effects. Now, garlic can be taken raw or cooked or fermented, and black garlic is very popular. Next, please. The garlic organosulfur compounds act at multiple targets. It can act to prevent docking of the virus, to prevent replicating of the virus, to prevent formation of new viruses, and such that new virus cannot be released to infect other people. Next, please. So if we get the phytochemicals or active fractions of phytochemicals with proven efficacy against SARS-CoV-2, it is possible to ingest them as a supplement or to take the herbs that contain these phytochemicals, or we can impregnate our personal protective equipment, our PPE, with these phytochemicals, or we can use them to disinfect the air or as surface sanitizing agents. Next, please. Now, other than herbs, other supplements such as vitamins can also be used to combat COVID-19. Vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, and also K, and the water-soluble vitamin all enhance the immune response against COVID-19. Next, please. Vitamin D has been looked at because COVID-19, vitamin D, there are now close to 30 studies that shows that vitamin D can reduce COVID-19 risk. And there is a call to promote giving daily vitamin D of about 1,000 to 2,000 international units for children, up to 5,000 for adults. The reason being, vitamin D is very cheap and its toxicity is very low. Next, please. There is actually a clinical trial on vitamin D being carried out now by University of London, and the projected number of participants is about 5,000. Next, please. Vitamin D is actually of two sorts. One is cholecalciferol, which is made by our skin upon exposure to UVB. And then you have ergocalciferol, which is produced by plants. The active form of vitamin D is calcitriol, or 1,25-dihydroxy D3. Vitamin D functions to regulate calcium metabolism and also to regulate the immune system. Next, please. And of course, as I said before, there is a call to promote the use of vitamin D against COVID-19. Next, please. Another supplement, zinc, is crucial to maintain homeostasis of both innate and adaptive immune systems. Deficiency of zinc is associated with depressed immunity, and randomized controlled trials have shown that zinc supplementation improves clinical symptoms in a shorter time in children with pneumonia younger than 5 years. Next, please. The RDA is as follows. The tolerable upper limits is about 7 milligrams for children up to 3 years old and 25 milligrams for adults. The no observed adverse effect level for adults is about 50 milligrams per day. Next, please. Another important topic that is a hot topic right now is looking at the microbiome. The microbiome is defined as the collective genomes of microbes within the gut. This includes bacteria, fungus, virus, and also helminths. While microbiota refers to the microorganisms. And there is compelling evidence that microbiota help to shape the immune system as a whole. Next, please. Many factors affect the gut microbiome. Whatever you take in your diet, whatever drugs that you take in, where you stay in the world, at which life cycle you are in, whether you were born via vaginally or through C-section, and how you were fed as a baby, whether by bottle or by being suckled by the mother, and how you cope with life conditions, how you cope with stress, and so on. Next, please. Now, prebiotics are actually the fibers that promote growth of good bacteria within the gut. Probiotics are the good bacteria that we take as supplements sometimes. The microbiome influences the gut locally. It influences the immune system in the gut locally and also systemically. And in return, the immune system also influences the gut microbiota. When the microbiome is happy and healthy, the immune system responds quickly and effectively to viral infection. So any disruption of gut microbiome, whether due to the host or other factors, may predispose healthy individuals to abnormal inflammatory response observed in COVID-19. And of course, we all know about supplementation with probiotics for optimum gut health. Next, please. Now, it is important to build the immune system. Now, look at this cartoon. Think of this cartoon as immune cells that actually get switched on during infection. So there appears to be a switch. And when the infection is curbed, this switch is switched off. So the questions that we can ask would include, can the overall environment of the body affect the switch? Can macronutrients, whatever is in our diet, affect the switch? Can we switch? In fact, can we switch the immune system on or off? Next, please. And I learned in the last 2 years, because I was affected by a chronic disease as well, that to be healthy, you don't only look after your physical body, you must also look after your mind and your spirit. So all these three aspects, the physical body, the mind, and the spirit, must be healthy. And we know that there is always conversation, a two-way conversation going on between the immune system, the diet, the microbiota, and so on. And these are all affected by many things. Next, please. Now, as Muslims, we all ask to fast, either sunat, either puasa sunat or puasa wajib di Ramadan, because research now shows that fasting regenerates parts of the body. Fasting regenerates parts of the body. And when you're fasting, macrophages will eat up all the damaged cells. And fasting affects the metabolic switch. During refeeding, growth hormone is released and new immune cells are released from the bone marrow. Next, please. Now, we know that eating is energetically costly. And the short chain fatty acids that is produced when fiber is broken down actually can cause the gap between the gut barrier cells to widen. It can cause leaky gut, leading to inflammation. Therefore, every time you eat, you experience postprandial inflammation. Now think about it. We normally eat 3 times a day, in the morning, lunchtime, and in the evening for our dinner. In between, we have mid-morning snack, and then we have tea. So if you take 5 meals a day, you get 5 bouts of postprandial inflammation, as opposed to somebody who is fasting, who only experiences 2 bouts of postprandial inflammation. The pattern of eating has also changed. Some 30 years ago, people only eat 3 times a day. But now people seem to be eating all the time. So these people are always exposed to postprandial inflammation. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Now, if we have had many insults in the body, if we have been stressed, we do not have good sleep patterns, if we do not move, we sit a lot, especially in meetings, if we have repressed emotion, all this can affect the immune system. Next, please. Stress has been shown to increase pro-inflammatory cytokines, and there are many studies that show this. Also affects the gut microbiome, switching off the stress response, causing leaky gut. And when stressed, cortisol is produced, and cortisol dampens production of fresh immune cells from the bone marrow. And this affects the immunological space. And if this does not happen, older immune cells linger and they tend to go wrong. Next, please. Many methods to manage stress: yoga, meditation, breathing exercise, guided imaginary. Reduce stress, reduce activated NF-kappa B, reduce CRP, but do not increase inflammatory cytokines. And they all have effects on the gut microbiome and give rise to cognitive benefits. Participants in a clinical study, participants at a meditation retreat, after 3 months, showed more telomerase activity than controls. Controls are the participants who are waiting to enter the meditation retreat. And another study looked at healthy males of Indian Navy who practice yoga and meditation. After 6 months, these people show increased glutathione activity compared to those who only undergo routine physical training. Next, please. And of course, as Muslims, we should zikir in the morning, at night. And all this has been compiled by Habib Omar in Al-Hulasa. Next, please. Inadequate sleep increase the risk of developing rhinovirus associated by cold by more than 300%. And in COVID-19 infection, sleep deprivation actually increases this monokine, which increases lymphocyte infiltration, which is implicated in activation of inflammation. Adequate sleep also ensures secretion of melatonin that plays a vital role in reducing coronavirus virulence. Next, please. There are cultural aspects to the immune system: our thoughts, emotions, how we deal with anger, how we express, how long the anger lasts. And of course, we also thought of the importance of forgiveness, and also being within the community, because the immune system has been shown to behave differently when we eat in company, which is totally in line with Hadith. Next, please. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Aisha, for the wonderful presentation. And I'm sure that the participants have so many questions in their mind to ask you, but please keep until our Q&A session. So for the all participants who will ask to Professor Aisyah, you can write down the question in the chat room. So we will discuss later in the Q&A session. So thank you very much for Professor Aisyah. So please wait for our Q&A session, because we will move to the second presenter. It's already here, Dr. Feby Dwi Rahmadi.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. But first, hello, we meet again, but in a virtual, yeah. Okay. Please, yeah, for curriculum vitae, yeah, this is Feby Dwi Rahmadi, using public health, Master of Public Health and PhD. So, Dr. Feby, his personal qualification is disaster management, risk reduction, and climate change adaptation policy planning, health promotion planning, policy formulation and implementation skill, communication and advocacy skill, and program management and team building skill. Also, his research interest in global health and regional security, linking disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and sustainable development. Public health in emergency, so it's really related to our condition now. Community health program design and evaluation, community-based resilience, building against disaster risk, and collaborative governance and partnership building. So for the educational background, Dr. Feby got his PhD from Griffith University and Master of Science in Public Health also in Griffith University. And I'm really proud of him, because we are from the same, graduate from the same faculty for Bachelor in Public Health in University of Indonesia. So Dr. Feby also have many teaching experience and highlights, and he also supervised for PhD. Yeah. So next, can you show us? Now he is in his desktop. Now he is. Can you up? No, not down, but up. This all publication. You can see all the publication of Dr. Feby, and now he's as a lecturer in Global Health School of Medicine in Brisbane, Australia. So today, Dr. Feby will give his presentation about selected lesson learned from COVID-19. Are we ready and willing to learn and change? So this kind of situation now is really complicated actually. So we have, like I said before, we never imagined that we have this kind of situation. So this is time for us actually. Are we ready for that, or we really want to have this challenge to overcome this situation? So I think Dr. Feby will give you many insights for this kind of presentation. Please, Dr. Feby, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Moderator, Mbak Tia. So maybe I call you Mbak Tia. All right. And Prof. Zil, if you're still here, Prof. Amina, and also Prof. Aisyah. Prof. Aisyah, thank you so much for your informative presentations. I also learned so much from your presentations. So it is always great pleasure for me to be in this kind of conference, because we get to learn something new always. And even from participants, sometimes we also learn something new as well from their questions, and also from their comments and their inputs as well. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. It's an honor for me to be with UIN Jakarta again. Last year, I think I did come to your faculty, and it was a great pleasure for me to meet you face to face. And this year, although we cannot meet face to face, but I think through this virtual conference we can meet, and we can always share something. Okay, and let me share my screen, and hopefully this time is working. Okay, yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, so when Ibu Irma gave me tasks to talk about lesson learned, it's actually it took a while for me to prepare these presentations, because there are so many lessons to be learned from this COVID-19, because this is a novel virus, this is a new disease, and so there are a lot of things need to be learned, need to be studied, need to be researched about this virus, about this disease. As we all know that we are currently struggling to produce the vaccine, but what I'm going to talk about in this presentation, it is more about the global picture of COVID-19, and then how we should learn from this COVID-19, from this disease. Are we ready to change? Are we willing to change? Because that is the most important part. Because as you, Mbak Tia has already read you read my CV, and it was about disaster risk reductions. That is actually my background. And from disaster risk reductions perspective, one of the most important element to be able to ready to tackle future disaster is ability to learn. So ability to learn is very important. And we always learn something new every day. Okay. And okay, so this is just a disclaimer. I'm not going to blame anybody here. I'm not going to blame government. I'm not blame like a specific party or maybe ministries, but this is more about evaluations, because we need to evaluate ourselves as public health practitioners, as public health experts. What have we learned from this COVID-19? Okay. And so this is a question to all of us, what we have learned. I think one thing that we have learned is that everyone is now expert in using Zoom, I think. Everyone is used to do maybe virtual conference, Skype, maybe Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or any kind of platform for us to have communication like this. I think that is one thing that we learn, right? However, there are so many other things that we should also learn, and this is also questions to ourselves. Okay, the first ones that I would like to bring, I think this is one of the basic, because Griffith University is quite well known with the environmental approach. That's why in our public health unit under School of Medicines, we always call ourselves as ecological public health expertise. So not only public health, but we also add ecological before the word public health, because that actually tells us that we would like to look at from the environmental perspective when we want to solve a public health problem. Okay, so that is the first one. So how did or how do, because in terms of English, did and do is it's something that is quite significant. Maybe in Indonesian language, maybe there is not so much different. However, this is something that we need to ask: how did and how do. So because maybe it is still ongoing until now. All right. So how did we interact with our environment? So that is the first one that I would like to bring in these presentations. And the second one is how did our health system to address the health implications, and what about the leaders? How leaders facilitate the process, and how did we make decisions during uncertain times or during the peak of the pandemic times. And the last one is how do we communicate the risks to the public? So in terms of the lesson learned that I would like to share in this presentation today, I would like to share these 5 key themes, okay, from the interactions, our interactions, human interactions, and the environment, and also the health system itself, the leaderships, the decision-making process, and the last one is risks communications. Okay, so let's go to the first one, which is the interactions with our environment, human interactions. As we all know that we are now in the Anthropocene epoch, where human is taking control of the world, right? So human is dominating everything. So that's why in the latest report related to the natural disasters, the United Nations for Disaster Risks Reductions has already mentioned that there is no such natural disasters. So everything is triggered by human activities. Okay, so what we have done so far for our environment. So first one is, of course, overpopulations. Okay, so yes, too many people already in the world, and as you know that because I'm currently living in Australia. Australia maybe only because the population in Australia is only 24 million, which is the population density is I think 4 per 1 square kilometers. And I think in Jakarta, it's about 10,000 or maybe 9,000 per square kilometer. So it's very different. Okay, so overpopulations, that is the first one. So human, because the more we have people here, the more we need resources, water, food, everything, right? Pollutions. So we have produced a lot of pollutions for air, soil, water. What about global warming? And we are now trying to suppress, you know, especially the average of the global warming, which is 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are trying our best to basically to make it sure it is not more than 1.5 up to the year of 2100. We also have climate change, anthropogenic climate change, which is triggered by human activities. We have genetic modifications. Okay, so everything is if everything is genetic modifications now, like you have corn, apple, maybe rice. Okay, it's so difficult for us to find food that is really healthy. And I think about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the Queensland government has already banned vegetables imported from China, for instance, because they found that vegetables from China, they contains antibiotics because they want to protect their vegetables from disease. So they put antibiotics, so then it lasts longer. So then they can sell more vegetables and they can earn more money. But what will be the impact to the human who consume that vegetables? Ocean acidification. So this is more related to water pollutions, the use of pesticides. So this will also impact the natural habitats of the oceans. Overfishings, because we have more populations, so we fish more. And they even use a very large ship, you know, just to collect fish. All right. And deforestations, okay, illegal logging. So because we need space, so they cut trees. We need log. We need maybe so many products that actually use trees. So they cut trees. So then they can convert those log into something that human use. Acid rain, because the more we burn coal, that will also affect, you know, the acid rain. Ozone depletions. How many of us still use the sprayer that contains the CFC, the gas that could affect the ozone? in our atmosphere. All right. So we have to evaluate ourselves as a human, how much we have, destroyed our environment. All right. And this is a question to all of us. Okay. And now with this COVID-19, of course, now people use more face masks. And then of course, at the hospital, they use the disposable, maybe biohazard suit. So it made from plastic. So it is only one-time use, and they have to throw it after they use it. So it also produces a lot of plastic waste as well. And if you look at these, and even here in Brisbane, where I live now, I also sometimes I can see some people, they just throw face masks maybe in the public transportations, or maybe in the ground. So this is a medical waste, and very, very dangerous. Okay, not only it is a waste, but it is also a medical waste. So climate and pathogens. So there is a very strong connections between environment, climate, and the pathogens. And I think Prof. Isa has already mentioned about the virus itself. Okay, I'm not expert from the virus point of view, but here, if you look at this figure, it is clearly that there is a close connections between the biodiversity, okay, and the climate, and the existence of the pathogens. In this context will be about SARS-CoV-2, and also the population density. And if you look at this, the EID is not it's celebrations. This is the emerging infectious disease. So most of them are zoonosis, which is coming from the animal. All right. So it's like a karma. I'm not sure whether you believe in karma or not, but we exploit the animals, and now the animals spill the virus to human. So that now we are affected by this kind of virus. This is actually not the first time. All right. And you can maybe easily find these, these figures from Google's. This is the history of pandemics from Antonine Plague until COVID-19. If you look at this, the pre-human hosts, most of them, or if not all of them, are coming from animal. All right. From rats, fleas, bats, chimpanzees. This is from HIV/AIDS, pigs. Okay, so all of these are coming from animals, and we should have learned about this. All right, and I think last year when I physically came to your faculty, I did also mention that there is a potential of pandemic coming from the animal, because I was talking about global health security. I think at that time, that was last year. And so I'm not going to go into details. However, I just would like to highlight that this coronavirus, or the SARS-CoV-2, they have quite many family members, like brothers and sisters of this virus, and only 3 out of 40 species under Corona-Viridae family virus that spilled to humans. So you can imagine only 3 out of 40. You can imagine if all of those 40 species spill over to human. Okay, so now we have SARS, for instance, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, and also now what we are currently facing is the SARS-CoV-2. So, and the COVID and environments, I think you have seen this picture previously. So now we have to basically, if we really want to learn, or if you really want to improve ourselves from these COVID-19s. Okay, so now we know that there is a strong connections between our behavior to our environment, and then the spillover, the spillage of virus from animal to human. But now what we are currently doing is that, of course, the COVID-19s, to some extent, that will bring down air pollution, sound pollution, noise levels, because of not that many people travels, and not that many people travel through maybe by airplanes or even by cars, okay, because of travel restrictions. However, COVID-19 also increased the medical waste, the domestic waste, because people stay at home and they tend to maybe produce more waste at home, right? And also not to mention about this medical waste as well. So if we really want to learn, so we have to find the solutions that is sustainable, okay? And if we keep doing these kind of things, and then maybe we can get rid of this COVID-19, but then there will be another pandemic waiting for us, okay, sooner or later. So we have to open our eyes. So from the first lesson learned that I'd like to share is that we have to open our eyes. Damaging the planet will damage our health. All right. So this is something that we should learn and we should improve ourselves from this point of view. And the second one is preparing our health system. And I think everyone has seen this. So this is the WHO building blocks, which consists of the 6 important elements. So if you want to build a house, so we need a block, right? Batu bata. So we need the foundations, we need the wall, we need the roof, we need the windows. So we all of them are important. So service delivery, health workforce. So we do not wait until pandemic coming or maybe disaster hit us. We have to always evaluate our building blocks, the health system building blocks. So, and this will improve our health. This will improve our responsiveness if there's any disaster, if there's any infectious diseases. So if we don't have these building blocks, this will impact how we respond to this disaster or to this pandemic. It is important for us to, I took this from the Australian COVID-19 management plan. And in Australia, we use the system that has been established. So we don't create something new. So we don't create task force, we don't create satgas, we don't create something new in our system. So we just use the system that has been established. And this has been established. So if you look at this, so all these are related community empowerment and law enforcement. So this is something about quarantine, the infectious disease, and understanding our own strengths and weakness systems. So when the COVID-19 first came to Australia, it was I think it was in February. It was in Melbourne. So there's a guy apparently from Wuhan. However, he actually transited in Guangdong province in China, and then he flew to Melbourne. So that is the first case in Australia. And Melbourne until now, it's still the hotspot of COVID-19 for Australia. In Queensland, where I live at this moment, I think there has been no cases since I think last month. So there has been no cases, and there are only 2 people in the hospital at this moment. But however, in Melbourne, because they have community transmission in Melbourne, so they are still struggling to suppress the cases in Melbourne. Okay, so they have still, in Australia, although we have established the system, we are still facing some challenges as well. And okay, so just before we go to the leadership, so if you look at this here, so all of them are the system that has been established. And in Australia, we don't have like maybe, let's say, the key, what do you call it? We don't use any like influencer or maybe whatever you want to call it, so it is always the Minister of Health who talk about COVID-19, or the Premier of the state, and also the Prime Minister of Australia who talk about the COVID-19. So they always update the situations like every week. And the third lesson learned, which is very important, okay, the leadership. So how we evaluate our leaders in this context. How? All right. So if you look at this, this is a Global Health Security Index 2019, and if you look at this, United States is the first one. So they nominated United States as the country that is most prepared to deal with any pandemic. This was in 2019. The conference was in Sydney, in Australia. And however, if you look at what happened now, United States is the country with the most cases of COVID-19. So what happens? What's wrong? And Indonesia is here, right? Indonesia is here. Indonesia is, look from this index, we can see Indonesia is stronger compared to, let's say, Vietnam. All right. However, if we compare between Vietnam and Indonesia in terms of how they deal with COVID-19, so we can see Vietnam is more effective, okay, compared to Indonesia. So what happens? Why? Is it something wrong with this Global Health Security Index? Okay, and so if you look at this here, so this is just to support my argument saying that the United States has the most cases here. So COVID-19 has spread across the world, across all nations in the world, and you can see, so these are the countries that has the most, United States and of course India and Brazil, and okay, and this is just to, I took this from the Business Insiders and also the conversation. So this is talking about the leaders of several countries who underestimated COVID-19. So here, Chinese authorities downplayed the threat of the outbreak when it first began in December. So that's why United States, they always put blame on the Chinese government because they did not do proper actions when they first found this case in Wuhan. And of course, the Italy Prime Minister also downplayed the coronavirus infections in February, and the country's foreign minister accused the media of inflating information about the spread of the illness, right? So, of course, this is one of the most famous or infamous Donald Trump. Has repeatedly downplayed the virus, calling it hoax. Even when he mentioned that he just been infected by coronavirus, some people say that it's a hoax as well. So we don't know which one is correct one. Okay. We also have the UK Prime Minister also say that coronavirus only bring moderate risks. Iranian officials. And we have the Spanish Prime Minister also, and the Brazil president downplayed the coronavirus by calling it a measly cold. Okay. And Indonesia, okay, was in denial over coronavirus. Now it may be facing a looming disaster, okay, because first they said, oh, we are in tropical country, the virus will not, survive in tropical country. But what happened now? Right. Okay, so this is very important. How leaders, respond to this threat is very important, and that will impact the magnitude of the virus. And if you look at this here, so I tried to apply. So I did this myself. I tried to apply the pressure and release model risk system approach. So we often use this approach to deal with natural disaster. And here, this is the hazard, which is the SARS-CoV-2, the virus or the pathogens. We have the maximized capacities here. So testing capacities, contact tracing. So this is the basic, treating, tracing, and testing and isolating. However, we have three important factors here. The first one is unsafe conditions. So no matter how we have maximized our capacities, but when we haven't actually touched these unsafe conditions, pressure, and also root influences, then we will always have the cases. Okay, so we have to increase our capacities, public health capacities, and of course health service capacities, but we also have to look at this, the unsafe conditions, okay, like animal trafficking, exotic life, animal market. And I think in Indonesia, they are still, you still have this, you know, exotic life animal markets, and some people like, well, alhamdulillah, like Muslim, we don't eat like exotic animals. Okay, we only eat halal animal meat. But some people, like, they still eat this, you know, these, you know, like exotic animals. Lack of trust, lack of awareness. So all these are unsafe conditions. And pressure, you know, population density, policy synchronization. So there are a lot of maybe disharmony between central government and provincial government. So this will also impact how, you know, the effectiveness of our response. And if you look at this, because we were talking about leadership, so political commitment and effective leadership, so these are the root influences. Okay, so if we don't, you know, deal with these, you know, root influences, so no matter we have done our best in terms of maximizing our capacities, and the risks are still there. So that's why Global Health Security Index in 2019, maybe they nominated United States as the first country that is, you know, most prepared country to deal with virus or pandemic. However, because of political commitment, ineffective leadership, they still have this, you know, they are struggling now to get rid of this virus from the country. Okay, and so there are three important factors that I would like to share today in dealing with the leadership, effective leadership during pandemics. The first one is decisive leadership, is rapid response. So you have to do it rapidly, so in timely manner, okay, based on clear understanding of the threat posed by COVID-19, and that delay actions could lead to worse outcomes. So that is something that we need to learn, because we don't want to, but I think COVID-19 will not be the last pandemic. All right, so there will be maybe another pandemic in the future. We don't know whether maybe it will be even more virulent, or more in terms of the magnitude, in terms of the case fatality rate, or maybe even more in the future. So we don't know. So we have to basically learn from this COVID-19. So effective leaders are leaders who believe in partnership-driven solidarity. So we have to basically work together. So that's why they call it the whole of government approach, or the whole of society approach. Building trust is very important. So the leaders who build trust, because it's not leader who basically, sometimes the leader, it's in the contrary between leaders and the academics. Okay, so they are not in the same, corner. So this is not right. And the lesson number 4 is evidence-based decision-making process. So although I understand there is no perfect modeling, okay, but at least we need to have one, okay, because modeling is very important, and this is how we try to convince the community, try to convince the people. And this is what they used in Australia. This is in regards to the physical distancing, you know. So basically we need 90% of Australian people to comply with these regulations. If only 70%, and you can see the case will increase, 80 slightly increase, but then decreasing, 90% compliance will flatten the curve effectively. Okay, so the decision making is not made based on popularity. Okay, so it has to be made based on the evidence base. And what we did here in Australia, so they have established what they call pandemic health intelligence plan. So all decision is made from this plan, and the prime minister, or I think because even sometimes within the ministries, different ministry, they have different opinion about like whether Queensland, because I live in Queensland, whether we supposed to open our border with New South Wales, okay? Because Queensland is next to Queensland is New South Wales, because until now we still close our border, so nobody from New South Wales or from other states can come to Queensland unless they have to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks. They say like this is in regards to the economy system, because lockdown will also impact negatively for the economic development. But then they say that we cannot make any surplus during this COVID-19, so nobody will make any surplus, which means that nobody will think about economy at this moment, but we have to think about how to survive first. So how we can survive. So that is the most important part. Okay, so that's why they actually use these 4 factors: epidemiological situations, public health system capacity, healthcare system capacity, which means the ICU, ventilator, hospital beds. So they have to think about this, and community acceptance and adherence. So how the community comply with the regulations. They like currently in Queensland, so they have the COVID-19 is restrictions plan. So we have so it's a staggered process, which is consists of 6 different phase. Sorry. So we are currently in phase 4. And next month we are going to phase 5, and then hopefully by end of this year we are going to phase 6, and after 6 we go to new normal. So you see there we have to go through 6 phases to go to new normal phase. So in some countries, maybe in Indonesia, they go directly to new normal without going through these phases. Risk communication. So lesson number 5 is risk communication. Risk communication is very important to build and maintain public trust. So especially now, because communications information can be accessed through many different platforms. From nobody, I think some people like my father in Jakarta, he still subscribe to a physical like newspaper. So somebody will give newspaper to him like every day, but only him. Like I don't actually read newspaper like physical newspaper. So everyone is access information through internet now. So it is very important for the government to build and maintain public trust, enhance and perceive risks, so they can develop this proper perceived risk to the community, so then we can invite the community to be part of the system or the strategy. Encourage behaviors that will positively contribute to fight the virus, manage the disease threats, and also to build public confidence. So we have to build public confidence with proper risk communications. So this is something that we probably could learn in the future. So this is about the triangle, network or link between government, expert, and public members. So, and risk communication is very important to basically to have a trust amongst this, and we as academic, we have also an important role to provide government with inputs and recommendations. So I've been talking for 32 minutes. So I think I've already passed 2 minutes from 30 minutes of my time. So just one last slide I would like to share here is this is the way forward. So we basically have to, because now we know that we have sustainable development goals. So we have to apply what we call by risks informed sustainable development. So, and it has to be applied to all sectors. And in fact, now we have what we call by health in all policy. So health in all policy, meaning that the all sectors, they also have to include these health risks or the, maybe the pandemic risks, inform, sustainable development. So before they do, they open new space, before they cut the trees, before they build the new roads, before they build a new hospital, before we build new human settlements, we always have to think about risks-informed sustainable developments, especially in the context of Indonesia. Not only that we are at risk to this kind of situations, which is pandemic, but we also have other natural disaster risks as well. So we have to apply these risks informed development, so then we can have a better future. I think that's all, and that is just some factors to share, and maybe in the discussion I would like to talk a bit more. If you have any question, if you have any inputs, and then I'll be happy to respond to that comments or questions. Thank you so much for your attentions, and I'll give it back. I'll give the microphone back to our moderator, Mbak Tia. Please, Mbak Tia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peby. It's a wonderful presentation, a very comprehensive one. And we learned 5 lessons about COVID-19. So I think we have many questions about Dr. Peby's presentation, but we have to move first to the next speakers from Japan. Yeah. Konnichiwa. Dr. Shimoda. Yeah, thank you for joining us today and be our speaker. First, I want to introduce you, all participants, to Dr. Kana Shimoda from St. Luke International University, Japan. So she got her PhD in 2017 in nursing science in St. Luke University, International University, Tokyo, Japan. And then the Master of Science Nursing also in the same university. And then the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, she got from Osaka Prefecture University, Osaka. Whoa. Kansai Bank, ne? Okay. She's a registered nurse, midwife, public health nurse in Japan, and for the professional position, she's now the assistant professor in St. Luke International University, Japan, and before that one, she has a activity in a birth clinic. And as research assistant and teaching assistant, also a staff midwife. So she has so many teaching experience also. Although I'm sure she's still young than me. Yeah. Then also she has a publication in journal, peer-reviewed journal. So I think because we cannot hardly wait to listen to your presentation, please, Dr. Kana Shimoda.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share my presentation. Wait a moment. Okay. I think you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, good afternoon or good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you for inviting me the chance to speak here today. My name is Kana Shimoda from St. Luke's International University in Japan. Today I'd like to talk to you about expanding nursing role in responding COVID-19 pandemic in Japan. So as she told, I'm a nurse midwife but currently working as a faculty member in the university. I know it's a very difficult time for everybody in the world, and we are also still suffering from the pandemic. of COVID-19 in Japan. But so at the first, I'd like to express my condolences for the people who lost lives in the disaster. Okay, so this is my university. The left side is our university and the right side is our hospital. So students can go and come back from the hospital when they have a training, clinical training. Okay, so in today's presentation, I'm hoping to cover these 5 points. Firstly, how is the trend of COVID-19 pandemic and the capacity of healthcare facilities in Japan? And after that, we will look at the main subject of this presentation, the role of nurses in COVID-19 pandemic and leadership of Japanese Nursing Association. And finally, I will talk about nursing education. I'd be glad to answer any question that you have at the end. Okay, I think everybody knows where it's in Japan. It's located the north part of Indonesia, and it's East Asia, we call. So we have 4 main islands, and there are so many small islands including. Okay, so COVID-19 was first confirmed in Japan in late January 2020. I think that was a time there were no or very few patients in Europe or in the US, but 1 or 2 patients are there already in Japan. So this chart provides a number of visual representations of information about COVID-19 in Japan since that time. Please take a look at the red line. It shows the trend of the number of new confirmed cases on that day. And as you can see from the line, there are 2 peaks in April and in August. Just before the first peak in April, the Japanese government declared a state of emergency on 7th April. So people were required to refrain from going outside for unnecessary and non-urgent reasons since that time. And the period during which the emergency state should be taken under the declaration was 29 days until 6 May. So compared to usual, the number of people going out apparently decreased. But unfortunately, the second wave has come from July, and the middle of August was the point at the second peak. And still there are like around 600 confirmed cases but each day in in October. So the cases are concentrated in major urban areas such as Tokyo, of course, and Kanagawa. It's located next to Tokyo and Osaka, as well as other countries, I think. And as you can see, Tokyo has overwhelmingly the highest number of cumulative confirmed cases compared to other areas. So there are many small islands in Japan, and those areas have limited healthcare facilities and transport into the cities. So the spread of the virus into those small islands will have serious consequences. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. So in the second peak, in August, a national occupancy rate for beds for all COVID-19 patients at the hospital rose to 23.1%, and it was highest in Okinawa at 85.1%. Do they have any question about that? Okay. Okinawa is one of the small islands which located in south part of Japan. And those patients occupied more than 40% of hospital beds prepared for them in Tokyo. So the government has secured over 210,000 hotel rooms to accommodate those with mild symptoms as well as asymptomatic patients as the country tries to contain the spread of the virus. So in those situations, nurses play a very important role, both facility-based and community-based. So nurses are leading in ways that are really quite similar to their usual work, but during a crisis, those work are more visible, I think. So they're on the front line caring for these patients day in, day out. So there is the need for infection control, nursing management at hospitals, and also public health nurses and home visit nurses are asked to do another specific works in addition to usual tasks. Okay, so let's take a look at the following concrete example. Like a control of the spread of infection disease is so important because one of the main things they want to try to accomplish is reducing patient deaths and slowing the spread of the disease. So infection control nurses are one of the members of infection control teams, and they play a vital role in the prevention of nosocomial infections, like infection at the hospital, it's mean. So they started to manage all medical equipment, including full personal protective equipment, it's called PPE, and they did that through providing those to all staffs. Also, they have regular meetings and sharing the trend of number of patients, treatment, and management, and so on with all staffs. And healthcare facilities everywhere and of all kinds are finding the need to prepare themselves by acquiring know how to minimize transmission risks. So especially among frontline nurses and care workers, often while coping with a limited supply of medical equipment. So secondly, they try to make some zones like as contaminated area and clean areas. In response to the pandemic situation, the infection control team creates those zones for patients with different levels of risk of infection. Could you look at the bottom left of your screen? This photo is of the staff cafeteria at our hospital. There are clear partitions per each seat, prevent particular for droplet infection. And also as the bottom right photo, this is of sofas of outpatient department. So it's also to keep a distance from others. Sitting next others are prohibited. So all the infection control nurses did those things. Also, they made access to training for staffs, like including infection control practice and practical arrangements. So for example, in use of PPE, gave step-by-step instruction on how to put on these pieces of personal protective equipment, and more importantly, how to disrobe after caring for patient with or suspected carrying COVID-19, and also washing hands properly. So yes, hospital staff listened attentively and took notes as an infection control nurses in the workshop. About nursing management, head nurses and in charge of nurses needed to control beds. So like a patient who are COVID-19 positive are needed to isolate in the private room or share a room with other positive patients. So they were very, very busy to set up to make sure certain patients go in certain beds and also to assign staffs. And when those beds are not available, they needed to think what's the next best place to put them. So also they should consider to close wards unexpectedly when nosocomial infection is happened. And at the same time, nursing management department needed to consider about job fair. Normally, students who are going to become nurses come to hospital to be a work on an internship program or participate job fair to know the hospital. But in this year, it was difficult to have it. So nurses held an online job fair to introduce their nursing and hospitals. As I told you, there are many accommodation facilities for mild cases, and nurses are also working there to check up people's their conditions every day. They have a safe to station there. Yes, it's like in a hospital. At the public health centers, public health centers play a key role in Japan's response to COVID-19, being the first point of contact for citizens who are worried that they might have contracted the virus. So then centers also liaise with hospitals and clinics to order PCR tests to confirm COVID-19 and hospitalize those who test positive. They have had an unusually high number of phone inquiries from March through early May, during the state of emergency. So averaging over 200 to 300 a day, because 300 phone call a day per each health centers. So public health nurses consulted with people over the phone, telling them the necessary procedure or instructing them what they needed to do, where they need to go. Also at home, with the spread of new coronavirus infection, the use of in-home service has changed significantly. While there has been an increase in the number of patients who have refrained from visiting for fear of infection from the nurses, or who have been switched to short stays due to the closure of the day service, there are also patients who have switched from the day service to visiting nurse and increased the frequency of their visits, which has led to the early detection of abnormalities and reduced the anxiety and stress associated with infectious disease. So for users who are in an environment that can easily become isolated, home care nurses with medical knowledge are an important part of their effort to support their medical care from both a physical and mental perspective. And the Japanese Nursing Association did also something for nurses. On April 8, the day after the government declared a state of emergency, JNA sent an email to 50,000 nurses who are not currently working to return to profession. And as a result, 1,520 nurses returned to profession and played their roles in such as accommodation facilities for mild cases, hospitals, COVID-19 consultation services call centers. So many healthcare facilities in Japan had tight nursing workforce before the COVID-19 situation. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, more nurses were required to provide nursing care to patients. So yeah, they support that of that. And also since March, JNA provides consultation services about risks, stress, infection control caused by COVID-19 by telephone and email, for strengthening support for nurses who are exposed to everyday stress, stress due to the outbreak of infection. General contact number deal with like infection control, work, mental health, and others since April 20. So they obtained cooperation to this service from highly specialized nurses, such as certified nurses for infection control and certified nurse specialists for psychiatric mental health nursing. Okay, also JNA has provided materials and videos containing how to put on the PPE care provision for patients with COVID-19 on their website. The information keeps updated as needed so that anyone can easily refer to their website whenever necessary. Also, they distributed PPE in partnership with the companies to healthcare facility and visiting nursing stations. So they utilize these for frontline nurses to cope with the shortage of PPE. Also, JNA held a press conference at an early stage of infection outbreak and emphasized to the public about the tight condition at healthcare settings and issues faced by nurses. So at the press conference, JNA's president talked about the problem of discrimination and stigma against healthcare workers and asked the public to cooperate in preventing the outbreak of infection, to understand healthcare workers and to cooperate with them. In Japan, discrimination and prejudice against healthcare workers emerged following the outbreak of COVID-19, such as the children of nurses were not accepted at nurseries, or that nurses were refused to take a taxi due to the fear of infection among the public. So through their approach, the government expressed respect for all healthcare workers who were at the front line of coping with COVID-19 and emphasized that it would make all efforts to support healthcare workers who were defending the healthcare settings. So within the 5 minutes I remaining. So now I'll move on the next section and talk about nursing education. I'd like to emphasize that nursing education curriculum and clinical experiences need to adapt to remote and virtual home. So in principle, students should stay at home and refrain from going outside for unnecessary and no urgent reasons. And also faculty members should work from home where possible. So all face-to-face classes are required to be online classes, and clinical trainings at healthcare settings are changed to online simulated trainings. But we wondered how we can provide learning experiences at hospital by online trainings. Perhaps the most prominent challenge was our ability to do that. During the training at hospital, normally students gather information about client's condition by using nursing chart. So we prepared a simulated chart and students can see it every day online. They can get new information according to the day. And also during the conventional training, students can take information and data from the client directly. For example, looking face, looking eyes, listening heart sound, like taking with the clients. So as well as preparing a simulated nursing chart, we also prepared videos to supply students with the experience of taking information from patients. After gathering information about a patient's psychological, physiological, and sociological status, students assess those and identify and prioritize appropriate interventions. But their most difficult part for students to identify those interventions. So normally they can consult with clinical staffs and faculty members whenever they need at hospitals. But online training is very hard. So we set aside time every day for students to consult with faculty, and faculty member also can figure out how much students can understand the client's situation through that time. Sometimes we do role play. There is a faculty who play a patient role and 2 or 3 students who play a nurse. They observe each other. So according to the nursing care plan, which student created, they try to take contact with patients. But through online simulated training, it's not enough to practice nursing skills. So students were divided into small groups, and each group come to the university on their assigned practice days. Of course, it's not enough to learn all nursing practice skills, nursing skill practice, which they normally can experience at the clinical settings, but at least they can simulate the sequence of practice. In online simulated trainings, there are very few opportunities for students to consult and discuss with clinical staffs. So we set meeting for connecting them online during the training at the university. It's very limited time because the clinical staffs are very busy, but just like about 30 minutes. But students are very happy to learn and hear from them about real nursing situations, how those nurses actually do at the ward. Okay, nurses, okay, thank you for your attention. I think so it is important that they are trained and have a knowledge and a skill to respond, whether they are caring for someone on the front line for disaster in the hospital. I think Japan seems to have ridden out the first big wave of the coronavirus pandemic, but it's far from ending, and we need to continue to fight them those. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Shimoda, for your wonderful presentation and very informative. Now, it's like by listen to your presentation, so I know that Japan also has the own problem, yeah, about handling COVID-19, because we thought that maybe in Japan is more easy or something because of the culture, but actually you have, of course, you still have so many challenges to end this pandemic in Japan. So this is a very, very important information for us to learn about this. So now I invite 3 of the speakers to the Q&A session. We have already some questions. So maybe first I want to give a question to Professor Aisa. There are 3 questions for you. First is from Ibu Yuni. I have read some information that some herbs like echinacea can exacerbate cytokine storm in COVID-19 patient, and also curcumin can increase S2 receptor, which is S2 receptor responsible for virus intake to the cell. What do you think about this? This is the first question. And then the second question is from Ibu Azri. It's about integrative between 3I in bahasa, iman, ilmu, imun. So it's any data to prevent interaction between TCM or herbal medicine and any drugs or vitamins to increase an immune system. And the last one from Pak Henry, Mr. Henry. I would like to ask question, as we know that food contain many compounds, both nutrition and secondary metabolites, which have physiological activities. As for food, we need to cook it, and therefore the constituent of food will change because of food processing. The content of raw food partially will change after processing or preparation of food. Do you have any information to share to us that ready-to-eat food or after cooking maintain its activity for boosting immune system? So, Professor Aisha. I think you have already some answer for this question, please. Please unmute. Still mute, Professor Aisyah.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Actually, I've been away from work for about almost 1 year over. So I'm not as familiar to the Zoom as you all are, because for you it's the second semester, for me it's the first entry, because at home I didn't go online on the Zoom so much. Anyway, the first one, reports of phytochemicals, curcumin, and so on, increasing the cytokine storm. Now, we know that research with herbs and the phytochemicals in herbs is very difficult. It's quite complex because unlike research on drugs, where you're looking at the effects of a single entity on a biological system, and you know what are the other conditions surrounding the physiological system. So the effect of a single herb is easier to follow. The effect of a single drug is easier to follow compared to the effect of herbs, because there are thousands of phytochemicals. Normally, we assume that, for example, if you look at Curcuma longa kunyit, we say that the active constituent, the phytoactive within Curcuma longa, are the curcumins. But there are also other curcuminoids within Curcuma longa that are also active. And then we give this curcuminoid to a biological system, whether human or animal or cells, and we see what happens. Now, the biological system also has other conditions, other comorbid conditions. Yeah, the person is sick, if you're talking about a human, and the sick person may have other conditions for which the person is also taking drugs. So following the effect of herbs, to me, is very difficult. We have to look at where the herb comes from, how it is prepared, what is the dose that is appropriate. Now, all things that we teach in pharmacognosy, which is a branch of pharmacy, where you look at effects of planting and storage conditions and extraction on the activity of phytochemicals. So I cannot answer that, it's difficult. You have to do research. You have to look at the total herb, you have to look at the active constituents in models where inflammation can be measured and controlled before you look at the effect on humans. But of course, effects on humans have to be documented and reported and recorded so that we can learn from that. Is that okay? I don't know. Ibu Yuni, you can help me anyway. You can share your views. Ibu Azri, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for all the nice compliments. Iman Elmo Immune. As I said before, I've been out since last year. I took a long leave because I also have a medical condition. Now, cancer runs in my family, and 2 years ago, I discovered that I have cancer. And I know that in my family, when somebody is diagnosed with cancer and they go for surgery and chemotherapy and radiotherapy and so on, they do not last long. They do not last long. Within a year, they pass away. So I hypothesize that even though I'm trained as a pharmacist, I think if your body is sick and you exposed it to measures that make you sicker, you are not in the best possible position to deal with this, with the surgery or the chemotherapy and so on. So what I did in the past year was try to get my body to as healthy a state as possible. And along the way, I learned that it is not the body that has to be kept healthy only. You have also to strengthen your spirit. You have to reduce the stress. And the best way for me, being a Muslim, to reduce the stress and strengthen the spirit is through zikir. The zikir that is advocated by Habib Umar through Al-Khulasa, before Subuh, after Subuh, and after between Maghrib or Isha or after Isha. That strengthens you, that keeps your iman strong, and you believe that you are not afraid of disease, because disease is just a way, eventually all of us are going to die anyway. We're all going to die. But to be in the best possible health, you maintain your body, you maintain your spirit, you reduce your stress. And that is what I believe now. And I think there must be a integration between what is done in the hospitals, i.e., if you got a serious disease, you're going to treat it, very good, evidence-based treatment. But you also have to look at the patient, and the patient has to be responsible for looking after his or her own health. So in case of COVID, we cannot just leave it to the health professionals. We cannot just leave it to the government. The people also have to look after themselves to be as healthy as possible, so that if you get the virus, okay, so what? But you have to be able to develop your immunity to respond to the virus such that it is not fatal. Hopefully it's not fatal, or the symptoms are not so severe. This is what I think. Anyway, it took me a long time to come to that. For Pak Henry, cooking versus raw food. Again, through my journey in the last 2 years, I realized that there is a group of people, I actually wrote this down, but I have not posted it yet. There is a group of people who only takes raw food. These are like the people who, they could be vegans or not vegans, but these people only take raw food on the premise that you are getting the maximum possible phytonutrients, and we're talking about herbs only, okay? Of course, your meat you have to cook, your grains you have to cook, and so on. Yeah, you're getting the maximum possible phytonutrients from the herbs or vegetables, and to get as much raw food, so as much phytonutrients as possible into your body, especially if you're very sick, this group advocates for you to slow juice. Now, it's not a blender. In the blender, you put everything and you blend. So you're taking the juice together with the fiber. Good for you. Makes you feel full. It feeds your gut microbiota and so on. But when you slow juice, you put into a slow juicer the raw vegetables. This will extract the juice from the raw vegetables. You don't put any water. So you can put like 2 kilos of carrots or whatever green vegetables as much as possible and get the juice. And that contains, I'm sure, millions and millions of phytonutrients that is effective. But if you're going to eat the whole food, I suggest that you have to cook. And of course, don't cook till death, because cooking helps in digestion of the food for you to absorb the nutrients as well. And in certain cases, for example, tomatoes, we know that lycopene in tomatoes has very strong antioxidant activity, has anti-inflammatory effects as well. But lycopene in tomatoes only is bioavailable if tomatoes is cooked. So eating raw tomatoes is not so good. It's not good. It's no. You don't get the phytonutrients. You cook it, then you get the phytonutrients. And that is the premise anyway as well. So when you take raw food, you must also keep in mind that the food has to be as clean as possible, i.e. you don't want to take in all the worms, and you don't want to take in the virus or the microbes on the food. So the way you clean the vegetables as well matters. I hope that answers. So it has to be a balance. Everything has to be a balance. And when it comes to food, you have to be sensible. You have to look at what our older, of course I'm old compared to all of you, we have to look at what the older generations do, but put in the evidence-based method that we have learned. Okay, I hope that clarifies.
Okay, thank you, Professor Aisha. I hope your answer is satisfied for Ibu Yuni, Ibu Azri, dan Pak Henry. And of course, I think this a lot of more questions about this, but we have to move first to the question for the second speaker. It's from Ibu Dewi. So, to Dr. Feby. So with the COVID-19 disaster, many health programs, both national and international, have been neglected so that their targets are not met. Does WHO or other international institutions reconsider about the targets that have been set, or how? This is a question from Ibu Dewi. So the second question maybe from Dr. Ibu Raihana. I would like to ask you on your recommendation on how to communicate. So this is also my question. How to communicate to people about COVID-19 vaccine, which recently will be one of the policy in Indonesia since the government said already secures massive supply of potential COVID-19 vaccine until the end of 2021. So it's also a very big issue now in Indonesia. So maybe that's the two questions from for Dr. Feby. So please.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Tia, and thank you also for Mbak Dewi, and who's the other one? Thank you for the questions. I think Mbak Raihana, thank you so much for the question. I think that is a very good questions. And regarding the first questions about the, you're talking about probably the sustainable development goals, and because there are so many global platform or global agenda that we are currently on progress from Sustainable Development Goals. We also have SENDA framework for actions in terms of disaster risk reductions. We also have the Paris Agreement in terms of the climate change or global warming. And there are so many other global platforms that we are currently trying to achieve. I think COVID-19, I think that it has been quite a number of publications from by Lancet Journal and also WHO Bulletin that the COVID-19 is a wake up alarm. So it is basically something that should push us that we have to move faster, because COVID-19 or this virus, they don't create the gaps. They basically expose the gap in terms of the health systems. So the gap is actually created by us as human, by the government, by us basically. So and then the COVID-19, they expose this gap. So we should be thankful as well with to these COVID-19s, because the virus tell us where's the gap in terms of the health system, in terms of the public health surveillance, in terms of so many other things. So then we have to fix this. And COVID-19 also tells us that we have to, and this is also in the SDG report as well, we have to link between, the first one is the economic growth, social inclusions, because as you know, that sustainable development goals is talking about the not only the poverty reductions or eradicate poverty, but also trying to make sure everyone can access their human rights. Because because some people think that the opposite of poverty is wealth. Sometimes that is not the case. The opposite of poverty is justice. So some poor people, they don't have access to justice. So we also have to fix this problem. So this is the second one. And the third one is environmental protections. And as I have mentioned in my presentations, that there are 75% or 70% of re-emerging disease, infectious disease, or newly emerging infectious disease are zoonosis. So we have to make sure that we combine, or we have proper integrations between human health, animal health, and the environmental health. All right. So this COVID-19, we're supposed to learn a lot from this. And then talking about sustainable development goals, now we have another 10 years to 2030. So this within these 10 years, so we have to really focus on the gaps that has been exposed by this COVID-19 virus. All right. So and if you go to website, because I have a quite my research interest related to disasters. So I always follow the trainings and also the conference done by the UNDRR, United Nations Disaster Risk Reductions. And if you go to that website, and there are a number of trainings, free trainings, online free trainings or workshops talking about urban resilience and pandemic. So the language of the resilience, that is the terminology that's still being used, but we put more about pandemic element as well there. Previously it was about natural disaster, earthquake, cyclone, floods, but now we also put more pandemic risks there. And the second one from Raihana about the vaccines. Okay, COVID-19 vaccines. So this is about how to communicate to people about COVID-19 vaccines. And yes, I think that's why when I did my presentations, public communications, proper public communication is very important, because this is you know, to build trust, you know, between public and the government. Without proper public communications, without trust, it is very difficult for the government to convey message, to basically saying that, okay, don't worry that we are on top of it, and then we will provide COVID-19 vaccines free, blah blah blah. And maybe a lot of people, they don't trust that. So it is very important. So that's why when you go back again to my presentations, that we have to really involve the academic elements and the public elements as well. So community empowerment or community engagement is very important. So we have to involve them, meaning that we have to also, you know, in terms of because community empowerment, there are 4 important factors. The first one is we have to share information. So we have to share information to the community. We have to share networks to the community. We have to share the resources to the community. And the 4th one, we have to involve them in decision-making process. So maybe in terms of Indonesia, we go to maybe like RT, RW levels, like at the neighborhood level. So we invite the community members to be to take part in decision-making process, and from district levels, from the provincial levels, and also go to the national level. So we always have to involve the community whenever we want to make any decision, you know, when we want to decide something. So by doing that, we empower the community, and the community that will build the trust. It is very important. And then, so then when they communicate, you know, any information about COVID-19 vaccines, this will go effectively to the community. And just one last thing as well, it is also important for us to build what we call by social vaccine. Okay, so social vaccine, meaning that we have to build the resiliency at the community, not only from the vaccine, but also from the, so that actually to build their resiliency, not only from the vaccine like that you injected to the community, but in terms of the mindset. So they have to be mentally resilient as well. So this is even more difficult than just to develop the vaccine, you know, the medical vaccine. So by developing the medical vaccines and also the social vaccines, so hopefully we will be ready to tackle not only COVID-19, but also the future pandemic as well. Thank you so much. Mbak Tia, back to you.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Feby, for your answer. It's like it's kind of like a highlight for your answer for the question that community risk communication, that how to convey the message to the community, and how community empowerment is very important to involve in the decision-making process in facing this pandemic. So maybe tomorrow you can come to the public health session talking about community empowerment. Or another, it's very important to share more knowledge about this. So I go to the next question first before I have a comment about this answer from our speaker. It's for Dr. Kana. From Ibu Mardianti. Dr. Kana, I would like to ask you explain more how you deliver the clinical experience for students. So I think you already show us how the online learning during this pandemic. So, but as a nursing student, they have to have the clinical experience. So how you handle with that thing. And then from Ibu Yenita, it's about could you share us about your experience about to change the method from face-to-face online learning method to online learning? Is there something changed with your curriculum? How about the evaluation you did in clinical practice? And what are some ways that you adapted as a nursing educator to teaching students remotely? So I think it's very, very challenging, right? As a nursing educator also, and also for the students. So please, Dr. Kana, Dr. Simule.
Okay, thank you for your question. As you told me now, it was very challenging because it's the first time to do online clinical practice for students, of course, but for faculty members. Actually, we did not change many contents of our curriculum because we need to cover which is requested from the Ministry of Education. So we need to cover those curriculum which is normally given to the students. But there are no choice to there are no any other choice to do that online because at the hospital they are so busy and there are no capacity to receive the student. So as I told you, we just developed the education program simulation based. So we use the simulation cases like using real cases. We take contact with clinical staffs who are working at a hospital, and we ask them to make some simulated cases by using a real patient case. So based on the real patient cases, we developed the simulated nursing chart. Like, may I share the screen again? Okay, so.
Can you share the screen? Please stop the screen first from.
Yeah, I share my screen again. Yes.
Okay.
So like this simulated nursing chart is made by faculty members. So students can see all the vital signs of each days. They cannot take a vital signs from patient by themselves, but at least they can get information about the condition of the patient on that day, and like data of blood tests, and also the about the urine in-out balances, the number of what is it, stools, and this is the clinical trainings for maternal health. So they are also indicated that the uterus conditions, the labor pains, like how much they have a pain on the uterus or something like that. So students can access to simulated nursing charts every day, and they can get information on that day. And also, yes, they cannot talk with patients, but they are pretend to talk with patients through using the online simulated videos. And not only using the videos, if they want to ask something add to the patients, the students can ask about this, like it's a role play. So the faculty members need to play patient roles. So for example, student was asking, do you still have symptoms of anemia? And I was answering as a patient, yes, I have a little bit of dizziness. So these like normally in at clinical settings, this communication can be learned, like a student can experience such a learning experiences, but it's difficult in almost simulated based online training. So we are pretend to be there at the hospitals, and other students can also share those information at the same time, because the students sometimes using same cases, same stimulated cases. So at the same time, 2 or 3 students are share information what they asking to the patients. Yes, nursing skills, what I told you, this is inside of the university. There are some simulated rooms, like a nursing skill practicing rooms. So they can come to the university, not at the same time because there are 100 students for each batch. So 100 are many. So we divide it into like 16, 20 groups. So each groups, there are 2 or 3 students. They can come to the simulated based rooms to practice their nursing skills. So we could cover their practicing also, not only using the online system, but also like face-to-face practice skill trainings. Yes, that is what I told you. In the discussion time, so normally students can share information, what they've learned, each other, but sometimes it's not enough to understand deeply. So clinical staffs are joined the conference and the meetings to advise on the students what kind of nursing like intervention are best for this patient, like these simulated cases, or they are also introducing that what they are doing at the hospital reality. So that is very good time for students to learn about actual nursing practice at the hospital. So if they are thinking only among the students, it's limited to understand. But if they have an opportunity to talk with the clinical staffs, it's a very like a good opportunity to learn more advancing. Yes. I hope it's answering for your question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shimoda. So actually it's very challenging, but we have to face this kind of problem. It's a very informative, all of the speakers, and I learned a lot today for your presentation. We still have time, so I want to give some asking you some question from me for Professor Aisha. So actually, from your perspective as a pharmacist, so in this situation, in this kind, specifically in this COVID-19 pandemic, so all of the process about medicine, actually, it's not enough. So we have to have a spiritual strength to cure our condition in this situation. How about that? How you said that with zikir and about mind and but how to manage with time now? Actually, in Indonesia we have so many people wants to feel secure with like consume traditional herb, for example. But you said that it's actually it's challenging to find its effectivity. So how we handle with that situation actually, with the people like keep going on consuming on that.
Thank you for the question. Now, when I had cancer, and again, I told you the premise was, I believe I cannot just go straight for surgery. I must make sure that I'm strong enough physically and mentally. I know that one of the risk factors for cancer, for breast cancer, was obesity. And because I was in management for such a long time, since I was 35, I sit a lot in meetings, not enough moving. So definitely control your diet, get healthy, remove the excess weight, clean up whatever is wrong with the body, the fatty liver must go, everything, the kidneys must be functioning properly, so that you can work optimally as a biological organism. And then I realized that, then of course people said, oh, while you're waiting to clean up your body, why did you take herbs? And of course, as a pharmacist, I'm really afraid. I mean, I do a lot of research on herbs, but at the same time, I know that herbs are chemicals, but certain herbs that we have been very traditionally exposed to, like kunyit, ketumbar longga, ginger, garlic, we know that there is no upper limit. You can take as much as possible. And amongst the curcuma family, there is many. I mean, for Indonesia, I realized that we have, even for curcuma longa, over here we have kunyit that is quite young. Indonesia, friends from Indonesia send me biang, which is very old, and I'm sure that somebody must do research on this. I'm sure the chemicals are very potent.
Yes.
And then you have, first time I realized about bawang putih lawang, bawang putih solo, you know, I didn't know about that. We only knew about normal garlic. And you have this halia baru, all kinds of ginger. And in Indonesia, you're very used to using this, you know, jamu. You consume it. Except that, I'm sure when your grandmothers, your grandmothers prepare jamu, they use the jamu fresh. They prepare every day. But now, because people are so hurried, they cook jamu, they prepare for a month or a week. And they do not have enough knowledge, such that they boil the jamu to death because they want it to last long. So I've heard of somebody who prepares jamu and sells it here in Malaysia and Indonesian. He boils a jamu for almost 8 hours. And to me, that will kill all the phytoactives. We know that kunyit and halia can withstand high temperature, but I don't know about 8 hours of boiling. You know, if you cook, you don't cook for 8 hours. You cook only maximum 1 hour maybe, yeah, on the stove. Unless they're making rendang lah, then you take a lot of stuff, yeah. Anyway, so I think those kind of herbs are safe because of our long history of usage, and they are food that is safe. But then from Pontianak, there were other people who were giving, I can't remember this, can't remember the name. It is a root that climbs, and everybody from Indonesia was saying, this is very potent anti-cancer. I was like, okay, I'll try while waiting. But of course, when I'm trying, because of my training, I make sure that I check my enzyme levels for kidney and liver at the same time. And I told you, I have been in administration for such a long time, and I became very fat from sitting and just eating whatever delicious food people give me because they want us to work. And to make you work, they feed you all the time. Not so good. So a lot of inflammation, okay? So I tried these herbs, but I know that at the back of my mind, you must not exceed a certain limit. So I think for herbs that is not used normally as food or jamu, don't take beyond 3 months, and check your liver enzymes, check your kidney function. Because really now, maybe our parents, our grandparents know the right dose and the length of time to take because they do not have drugs. So they take herbs as their first means of curing themselves of any disease. In fact, you know, only when I had cancer, I knew that my mother had cancer when she was young, after her second baby, and she was treated by herbs. But at that time, they don't have hospitals and clinics in Malaysia. This was pre-independence. And they know the dose to take, the duration. And at that time, they also do birth control using herbs. So if I look at my brothers and sisters, there are 9 of us in the family. The gap between us is long, 3 years, 4 years. And that is only done using herbs. So I think they have good knowledge before that is lost to us now, because we are now mixing, we are using pharmaceuticals. But because we think that, okay, our forefathers used herbs, we want to go back to the herbs. But we have forgotten how to use the herbs unless you really get. And then some people really want to make money from herbs because the herbs are not cheap. They're really, really expensive. They're more expensive than treatment at the hospitals, some of them. So people are really making money by selling things that they do not really know much about. But we as health professionals shouldn't tell people, take herbs only. It's dangerous, very dangerous, very dangerous. We can take herbs that we use as food, but we know there is no upper toxicity, not much limit, you know, not much toxicity associated to it because we have used it. We know that we must not cook it. We know that it is safe when taken raw. But remember, whatever we take into our body are chemicals. Whatever is in the plants, even though we say natural, they're still chemicals, you know, and these chemicals, if we're also taking other drugs, will also be working on the enzymes necessary to metabolize them, to get rid of them from the body. And therefore, they will also interact with other chemicals that we take in as drugs. Just remember that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important notes. Yeah, that traditional herbs that people like now it's like consume because they want to prevent from COVID-19 or cure from that. But actually, as long as it's a plant, isn't people call it natural, it's actually chemical, right? So we have to be careful with the utilization of those substance, right? Thank you very much, Professor Aisha. But now we have a question for Dr. Kana from Ibu Nia. I want to ask you about it. Is Japan experience nurse shortage related to COVID-19 pandemic? Since we know many countries experience losses of health provider as well. And does universities take part to send volunteer from faculty or students to take part? So please, Dr. Hannah.
Okay, thank you for your question. Yes, actually, yes. Not now, but in the April and May, there are so many patients at the hospital. The some faculty members went to the hospital, which is next to the university, to help them. We need the nurses needed to triage the outpatient at the outpatient department, like the ER. So they needed to have many nurses who can work for triages for COVID-19. So at that time, the faculty members also went to there, but the students are not going to the hospital as a volunteers because students doesn't have much time to do that, and also they are not professional yet. So the hospital also are not requiring to have a student as a volunteers, and also nurses who are whose specialties in a critical areas, for example, who have experiences working at ICU. Those faculty members directly went to ICU to work with the clinical staffs at hospitals. But in these days, after like July and August, there are no shortage of nurses because JNA, like a Japanese Nursing Association, sent the nurses who are not worked before sent to the hospital. So they doesn't have any challenges for shortage of nurses right now. But we don't know about the future. So maybe if the patients are increasing than now, so maybe we need to go again as a volunteer at the hospital. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kana. And the last one, maybe I want to ask a question to Dr. Fabi. So I'm interested in your presentation about what you said about social vaccine. It's already challenging when we said about medical vaccine now, but when you said about social vaccine, the resiliency of the community, how to manage that with the risk communication that we should do in terms of Indonesian situation, as you know.
Okay, it's $1 million questions, but yeah, it's very difficult to basically because like we are human, like, but there's so many research focusing on human, and until now, this is 2020. There are still a lot of things that we don't know about human itself, like especially the human behavior, and I think from disaster management point of view, social vaccines, we basically use these terminologies to basically to build community resilience. Community resilience mean that they have to be able to bounce back, and every time there is a disaster or every time there is a uncertainty, situations, and when they come back, they become even better than before. So I did a publications in terms of social, not in terms of social vaccine, but in terms of community resilience in the context of flood risks. Not COVID-19, because this was before COVID-19. And in our paper, we suggested that the community resilience, because there are so many approaches that can be done by the government to build community resilience, from the infrastructure point of view, from the financial point of view, from the institution point of view, from the natural point of view. However, because when we look at that is the what we call by the social capital approach of community resilience. So there are 5 different aspects that need to be included. One of the most important aspect, like infrastructure is very important. However, the most important aspect is the human aspect itself, the human and the social aspect. So if we want to build the community, we have to build the social fabric of the community, because sometimes the government, they like anything related to infrastructure. So they build new bridges, they build new buildings, they build new facilities, which is infrastructure, but they forgot to build the community themselves, like the community, the social fabric. So in terms of the social vaccines, we have to build the mentality of the people. So how, like when we talk about how to wear face masks properly, how to wash your hand, like now this is 2020, but we are still teaching people how to wash your hand with soap. Like we have been talking about hand washing since maybe a long time ago, but we are still teaching people how to wash your hand. Like here in Australia, you have to, when you wash your hand, you have to sing happy birthday 2 times. So meaning that they have to washing hand. But in Australia, maybe they don't have water issue, but in some places, they cannot have that privilege, washing hand that long. So what I'm trying to say here, like, because people like the government ask people to do social distancing, to do to wear face masks, to wash your hand, but they also have to understand why they have to do that. So they have to understand exactly why we have to do social distancing, why we have to do this, because otherwise they will try their best to find the gap. So then they will disobey what the government has regulated. So that is important. So to build the meaning within the people, so they have to be part of these systems. So, and maybe we can have a bit more discussion about more how to build the social vaccines, because I have in my, I think, previous person, not with the UIN, but I think with other faculty, with the other university, we're talking about how to build community resilience. I think we can have a bit more discussion, but I think because the time is not permitting us to talk about that. But I think from that point of view, I think that is one, just the quick answer about it, because that is a very good questions. And I think we have to, maybe we have to build more research on how we can because like there are so many research talking about the human behavior, like the like health belief models and the stage levels, behavior models. So there are so many theory talking about behavior. So it is important for us to have a bit more research about from social point of view, because health, it is not only from medical point of view, but also from social point of view. So then we can basically have a multiple perspective when we want to build community resilience. Thank you. But,
okay, thank you, Dr. Febi. So I think both of the 3 speakers show us that, like our team, like it's challenge and opportunity. This is our challenge and opportunity actually to explore more with the perspective of pharmacy and nursing and also public health, how to face this pandemic, to end this pandemic actually with the collaboration and also with the cooperation with each other. So it's become complete in one package. I'm sorry, the time is come to the end. But before that, before I close this plenary session, we would like to express our thanks for all the speakers. So to Dr. Kana Shimoda, to this session, and also for Dr. Febi Dwi Rahmadi, and also for Professor Aisyah Adam. Thank you very much for your great contribution for our to study and learning about this COVID-19 issue. So before closing this session, let me say something about this. It's always be blessing in disguise, including in this pandemic. Beyond this pandemic, we need to learn more, to care more, and to to save our life no matter what it is. COVID-19 is around us. It seems nothing, but actually it's a big thing. Denial is useless. Don't let it become disaster for us. So prepare ourselves to keep fighting, because we are here to be a winner fighting against COVID-19. So thank you everyone, everybody, for the participant, all speakers and all guests, for today, all committee for this today session, this morning session, because we have the next session for after break. We have room for public health and then for pharmacy, and also for nursing, and also oral presentation. So I hope all the speakers, if you have time, you can join and see the presentation also. Again, thank you very much. Alhamdulillah, we can finish and complete this session. I hope all of us can learn so many things, and we can move forward to face this problem together. And like I said, we can be a winner for this situation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. So don't forget for the participants to join again after the break.
We would like to thank all speakers, moderators, and participants for your attention and participation in this first plenary session. We hope the knowledge shared and discussions held will be of benefit to us all in developing the field of health.
Participants, we would like to remind you that our next session after the break will be the concentrated discussion room, focusing on public health, nursing, and pharmacy. The links for each room will be shared through Zoom chat and WhatsApp group. The links participants to be in the respective rooms. We expect participants to be in the respective rooms by 12:50 p.m. GMT +7, as the moderators in each room will begin punctually.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to remind once again all the participants that the further links will be shared in the Zoom chat and also in the WhatsApp group. So don't forget to join your respective rooms after the break ends. And before we end today's session, we would like to first of all introduce the moderators that are going to be in each respective room. In room 1, for the pharmacy breakout room, we have the moderator, Ms. Dr. Apotheker Azri Fitria MSI.
For room number 2, nursing, Ms. Maulina Handayani FKP MSI.
And in the third room, for public health, we have Mrs. Fajar Arianti, PhD. So ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to join punctually later at 1 p.m. so that we can gain more knowledge from all of the other speakers. And hopefully you will have a great time there too. And you can also expand all of your knowledge. Until then, we will have a break for 1 hour. Please use this time to relax and refresh your mind so that by 1 p.m. you will be in fine condition. Have a nice break.